All right, we'd like to call this meeting to order. All right. To begin, I'd just like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones at this time so it does not disrupt the meeting. And thank you for that. All right. We'll begin with the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion for a flexible agenda.
I'll second that.
You're supposed to. We also need to make sure that we pull item number 13.
Thank you. And pull item number 13.
And I'll second that.
All right. So at this time, we have a motion on the floor. We would like to open it up for public comment about the adoption of the agenda at this time. And seeing as there is none, we will close public comment. Bring it back. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we would also like to thank Edward Brown for leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, I do want to mention that Heather Jackson, my brain, wow. Heather Jackson is not with us tonight. She is with her family. So she is excused. We will miss her, but hope she has fun with her family. All right. At this time, we will open it up for public comment. And this is for anything not on the agenda. Do we have any online? All right. So seeing as there is no public comment, we will close public comment at this time, and we will go to agenda item number 11. Miss Willoughby.
Thank you, Terry Willoughby for the record. This is the first monthly financial report for the general fund. That's part of our fiscal watch promise that we've done. But I want to go through it. The major item to note, there's only $15 of revenue in July. There was the initial PCFP payment was received in August, so it's not reflected on this report. As far as the expenditures, the one item to note, and as a variance, is that liability insurance came in over budget. So we will hopefully have enough excess in other line items to be able to transfer that within. If not, that means that it will be over budget, which means you will not have a positive ending fund balance of 48,000. There's variances and walk through the report. It's broken down by school sites and by administration and operations and transportation. So there's different areas of the general fund grouped together, like departments. So there's budget. The first column is the current year budget. Second column is last fiscal year at this time for your reference. Third column is current month or current year to date. And the last column is the variance between the current year budget and year to date for the current year. I've noted the variances here and then provided explanations. This report will grow as we go on. It's only month one of the fiscal year. So this is budget by function. You can see different groups, categories by elementary school, middle schools, expenses. Fund balance projections, I'm not making any projections that the fund balance will change at this time. However, we will look at that again at the end of the first quarter. So when I bring this in October for the September report, I'll have an adjusted projection. And we should have our final numbers for 25, 26. I mean, 25, 26 at that time. There's some key performance indicators. Again, this is only month one, and these will grow as we move forward through the year. Your shows you're generally on track. Total general fund expenditures are 8.6%, and your year one is 8.3% of the fiscal year. And again, there's some disparity between that because you oftentimes pay for things for the entire year in the first month of the fiscal year. Management outlook and next steps. It talks about when we'll be bringing certain tasks back, like fund balance projections, revenue projections. I'm working on cash flow analysis that will be incorporated into this report in the future. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Miller?
Ms. Willoughby, do we know why the insurance came in more than anticipated?
The budget was adopted in May, so it's very early to do a projection. And so the insurance came in greater than, so the projection was received, the actual cost was received after the budget was adopted.
Okay. And then this is the insurance for the entire year.
That's the insurance for the entire year. So it's never going to go up. It's not going to be any more than that, but it is over budget at this time.
Okay. And then we don't allocate it per month. We take the full expense when we.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure everyone understands.
It's typical in governmental accounting. It's not typically done that way in business, but it's done that way typically in governmental accounting.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Brady? Mike. And then put it closer to your face. And you just turned it off.
And we're off. Marcus pointed out to me in the statement here that proceeds from sale of assets does not include real property. I was thinking there might be a dog park in there, but no.
That's correct. Proper sale of real property does not go into the general fund. These are small, like surplus equipment sales. That's why the budget's so low. And so that's more of like a surplus vehicle that we would sell.
A question that I have is, in May, when we approved the budget, we were told, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the 48,000 ending fund balance that was projected did not include the days that our staff, the 5 days that our staff gave back.
I believe
Is
that
that
it did,
correct?
correct. I believe that it did include the 5-day reduction.
So if we had not come to an agreement with our classified and certified,
We'd be over,
we would be way
Right.
in the negative again.
correct.
Okay, well, thank you to everyone who agreed.
Absolutely.
Yes, Ms. Knighting.
This is just for the general fund, correct?
Yes, at this time, I'm only doing the general fund each month. I'm hoping to include other funds once a quarter.
Well, that was my question because we do have other funds
Yep.
like our health thing that may impact this.
And those would, if I see something that I think is going to affect the general fund, I would include that in the notes in the
Okay.
general fund report. I'm hoping, and this is the first month, so
Yeah,
it
but
took some time to get this, but I would bring other funds in once a quarter. But if there's something that I see, like the health fund or special education, where we would be needing to transfer money out of the general fund, I would absolutely comment on that.
okay, I know those are the two that have
That-
needed general fund help before.
That's
so
correct.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. thank you very much for that presentation.
Okay.
We appreciate your time and work on this and look forward to it
And I
again
have
next
one
month.
more presentation.
Oh, okay. Right. Sorry. No, the next.
So the title of this is Road to Recovery. We are still recovering. So this is um, just some words of wisdom for the board as you're reviewing, things to look for as you're reviewing, and just good guidance as we're moving forward through this recovery stage. So Fiscal Watch is a warning stage. It's an opportunity to act before financial decisions are driven by crisis. So where we are today, we're on Fiscal Watch. We still have local control and we have time to act. Nevada monitors financial distress conditions and Fiscal Watch continues until conditions are corrected or the matter escalates. So we get better or we get worse. The state may request forecasts, cash flow information, reconciliations, corrective action plans, board minutes, testimony, and other documentation. So as you know, that's on the agenda. Each board meeting, we do have to provide documentations to taxation every month. They may come back and ask for something else. The district still controls its priorities and recovery strategy today. That flexibility becomes more limited if financial conditions deteriorate. So a question for the board to ask as you're reviewing things, are our decisions taken together improving the district's financial position each month? So it's something to think about with every action. So what recovery looks like, the goal is financially sustainable operating model, not just a balanced budget on paper. So structural balance means recurring revenues. So like your local funds for state that are coming in on a regular basis, those support your recurring expenditures. Your reserves, fund balance, and contingency protect against volatility. So we would bring back, you'll be seeing some policies that come back that will make some recommendations about that. Liquidity, the cash supports payroll and operations without any crisis measures. Discipline, new commitments have sustainable funding or offsets. Credibility, our forecasts and corrective actions are measurable and accurate. And local choice, the board still retains control of resource priorities. Recovery is achieved when operations are sustainable without routinely drawing down on reserves. And again, you'll see some policies come back on that. So the first step, we're in stabilization. We're controlling new commitments, validating the cash and the forecasts. You're all asking some good questions. We are tracking our corrective actions. Part of that is bringing the monthly financial report to the board so that you can see, the public sees, and has a good, accurate picture every month. Correct, we want to close the recurring gap, align staffing and enrollment, implement recurring savings, and then we'll start rebuilding. You really should have 2 months of operating reserves. You have 0.1%, which would be about 16%. And the 48,000 represents 0.1% of expenditures. So we have a ways to go. Restore reserves, establish contingency, strengthen forecasting, and then we get to maintain. Then we protect that balance. We measure policy impacts, avoid rebuilding the deficit. Each phase is going to have milestones, deadlines, and contingency actions if the savings don't materialize. So the guardrails during recovery phase is phase that our recurring commitments should be supported by recurring resources. One-time money should not routinely create permanent obligations. So if it's one-time money, a grant, it should be spent on one-time the expenditures. Vacancies should be treated as decision points rather than automatic refills. And there are some times when we have to fill vacancies, but we have to think thoughtfully about those. Grant-funded programs need an exit strategy or a future funding source because grants end. Significant policies, positions, contracts, and programs should receive fiscal impact review. And that's part of bringing things to the board. Everything has a fiscal impact, even if it's just no fiscal impact. Everything has a fiscal impact. So things the board should be looking for. What will this cost for a full year? Is the funding recurring or temporary? What happens when if there's temporary funding, what's our plan if that funding ends? What recurring offset or new revenue supports it? Does our approval increase the remaining recovery requirement? So it's not just about savings, it's measuring so recurring savings plus new recurring revenue, less our new recurring commitments is our progress. We want to show savings achieved and new financial commitments. If a planned reduction fails, then we have to come up with, it's just like when liability insurance is over budget. Well, we can't do nothing about that. So we have to either transfer it from someplace that has extra money, or we come back to the board and just say, that's coming out of, it's over budget. If an unsupported recurring expenditure is approved, increase the remaining recovery requirement by the same amount. The recovery target must move when our decisions move. And just a reminder of what happens if we don't stay on this hard course. We go from fiscal watch, if there's worsening conditions, declining reserves, cash compliance concerns, we would go to severe emergency, and the district could be on state management. That's still a possibility. I know because we had a positive fund balance, it was great, but we still have to stay the course. Under state financial management, Nevada law authorizes a financial manager, hiring restrictions, contract review and approval of expenditures and transfers, and control over new debt. Basically, the district loses most local control. And so you're doing all these things, and I applaud the board for doing this. There's just a reminder that we have to keep doing these things and stay the course. And this is from government finance officers. It's the recovery model. So we bridge, then we reform, and then we transform. And that's what that's what we're doing. And then this is some strategies for stabilizing cash. And this is already being implemented. We're working with the schools and departments on training them on budget monitoring, doing strategic alignment, and you've already done targeted reductions. And these are just some things about what the guidance will help in our recovery. That's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I don't think we have any questions right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just
Mr.
have
Alvaro.
one comment to make. So in fiscal year 24, the district had $65 million worth of expenditures. In the executive summary from Mrs. Willoughby, we're estimating expenditures being at $57,697,712. So the course correction happened, but we still have a lot of work to do, just like Mrs. Willoughby stated in her presentation.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for your time and energy in putting this together for us. We appreciate it.
No problem. And I know it's a hard reminder, but I don't want anybody to think that it's all fixed. It's not all fixed. I don't want to see us progress any farther down the road.
Right. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we will get back on track. We'll jump back to agenda item number 3, our consent items. Does anyone on the board wish to pull anything from consent?
I'd like to pull 3I.
Anything else from anybody? Okay. All right. Before we proceed, we'll go ahead and take public comment on our consent items. Seeing as there is no public comment on our consent items, we will close public comment at this time and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and possible action. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve all the consent items except 3I.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, so we will now take 3I, our out-of-state and overnight field trip approvals. Ms. Knighting?
Yes, can I just ask a question? How is the process that these come? They come before us and it says it's been approved by a site administrator and the district administration. Have they looked and seen that it says it's coming out of activity funds? Has anybody verified that there is that money to cover it in the funds before they make this approval?
Yeah, so right now we're discussing the workflow management for this item. We're intending to use a digital workflow. Right now we're stuck with the old process. And really this should go to fiscal first, just like Mrs. Willoughby stated in her financial presentation, so that we can look at the fiscal impacts. You can check budget, but we're still operating on the older process. So we're bringing this to the board with the assumption that there's adequate funds in each of these activity funds that are paying for these.
Well, and I just noticed on the bottom too, there is no dollars amounts on them. So we're being asked to approve something that doesn't have a dollar amount. So I have how do I know that there is funds if there's no dollar amount to approve?
These were late additions that went on to this item earlier today. Ms. Bedard, did the Exhibit H's have a dollar amount for the marching band?
Oh, is it updated since? No, the bottom two, there is no estimate, there is no dollar. I guess my question is before this comes before us to approve, it would be nice to know that somebody has looked at the budget and said, yes, there is actually money in this fund, because I can write activity fund on anything if nobody's checking,
Correct. We're working on the internal control process. Right now, there's just a delay with the software. We will refine that based upon your direction.
Okay.
Well, and I would just like to echo Ms. Knighting's sentiment here. We're being asked to approve things that have already been approved, right?
Mhm.
They've already taken place on a lot of these items. And so I'm curious, if we were to say no, what's the repercussions? Either it's, oh, whoops, we did it and we need the money anyway, or someone has to pay for that out of their own pocket. And so we certainly need these. It's kind of, I've brought up the same thing during the personnel report portion of this, where people are asking for approved days off that they've already taken. So that one is a little more understandable because they don't necessarily, they're going to take it. But in this case, these trips, they know they're taking these trips and they know it ahead of time. So if we could get this earlier, that would be great. And then the approval could be, yes, you can, cool, let's go. Not, hey, we already did it, please give us the money.
Understood. We'll make that correction. I did draft a timeline for out-of-state and overnight trips earlier in the spring semester of last school year. So Mrs. Dwyer has that. Travis, our administrator, manager over transportation has that as well. We will refine that and at the next meeting, bring it in advance.
And just the ones that do have dollar amount and have been approved, were the budgets looked at on those? Do we know?
We depend on the site secretary at each of the schools to review the activity fund. They also place the budget code on the Exhibit H, and then the Exhibit H is then routed to Renee for my approval. And then from there, it gets to transportation. It actually never crosses the desk of our CFO. So those are the changes that we're making in our process.
When will that process be updated so that it does cross Miss Willoughby's desk so that we make sure that we are not getting into that severe financial
So
issue?
I have scheduled one-on-one meetings for each of the cabinet members starting next week, as well as cabinet weekly. And so that'll be a topic on the agenda for Mrs. Willoughby and myself.
Okay.
And I'm also doing training on the student, we'll be providing annual training on the student activity fund administrators. I have a nice manual for them. And also I'm training school administrators next week on budget monitoring, so I can bring that up.
Thank you. Mr. Brady.
Just to clarify, are these student activity funds a part of the annual audit?
Terry Willoughby, for the record, yes, they are.
Ms. Miller?
So the last two that were just added today, those aren't till October. And I know we still have a meeting before that in regards to those two. So I don't know if it's possible to just remove those two.
Renee, do you have insight into this? You want to?
Sorry, I just, if there's no cost, I just figured I'd ask the question.
So because it's a new process that you guys want it to come to you for the final approval, we're just trying to get the whole thing going. And so we created this list that you guys are presented with. So we're trying a lot of the athletic directors, secretaries, whoever is filling out the forms, they're getting them to the office. They're trying to do like the whole semester at once to get approval. So you guys have plenty of time before their trip. So everything but one on that list should be coming up, not already passed.
Yeah.
The only one that is on that list was before the process started, and that was for our JROTC during the summer. So I put it on there so you guys could see that it did get approved before you guys asked for this new process, because it is where they're going out of state. So the reason you're going to see things on there for September and October is because as they come in, we're going to get them approved by you. I've already talked to some of the people who send them in, and they will send us updates if there's anything that changes, dollar amount or anything. Some of them do not have dollar amounts on them yet, only because they are waiting to know, like on the marching band, the box truck. I can tell you the bus is $3.50 per mile where they're going, and then $30 an hour for the driver. And then I don't know if the box truck is going to cost the same as our Suburbans do, or if they were waiting for that price. So that's why there's not one yet, but that is in October. So you will get that update showing the price. You're just basically saying, can they take this trip, right?
Okay.
So we don't have that dollar amount in there yet, but you will get that before the October trip, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Real quick, this is part of the issue is I want coaches to have the autonomy to make these trips and to do them. And I think Terry or Miss Willoughby, I don't know if you care if I call you Terry or not, but I'll call you Miss Willoughby. If she implements her process in which the site administrators and the coaches and the teams understand their budget, understand how to stay within their budget, and then want to make these decisions, I would argue I don't even need to be a liaison in this and make that decision, as long as they have, the proper training and the ability to make those decisions. Because I can sit here and tell you right now, I have no idea what the football fund is.
Right.
And $16,000 might be a drop in the bucket, and it might be something we do every year and it's in their budget and we're great and their coffers are full, or it might be way over. I couldn't even tell you.
So the end goal would be they have a number of predetermined trips. They probably go mostly the same places for the same amount every year. So they'd have a budget. And I would say as part of that budget process, they would plan out what they're going to do for the next year, budget for that dollar amount. And then if there's something that's not within that budget, then they have to come back for you for my approval, your approval,
That's what I think is probably the best
and we'll move towards that.
solution. Okay, great.
So maybe that's something that we need to give direction that maybe that policy, we need to review that policy again.
Yes, Superintendent Alvarado, for the record, we did have that discussion today, Mrs. Willoughby and Mrs. Dwyer and myself, and will be a future item.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Ms.
So one of the things here, if you look, most of these, and I know we have an out of state and overnight field trip policy, but all of these are all league or sanctioned trips. So these are things that because
minus the marching band.
minus the marching band. Yes, minus that one's a different one. But
Yes.
like your football, your golf, your soccer, your cross country, your volleyball, all of those are part of our league. And I know it's weird because we do go out of state. We do go to South Tahoe, Truckee, Portola, all the way back over to, Battle Mountain, down to Vegas, because that's now part of our football program too. I think we maybe really need to look at that out of state and overnight field trip policy and make sure, one, it stays in budget, but two, that, we want our kids to do these sports. We want them to do this. And if this is in their activities fund and, they've raised so much money. I mean, it doesn't also say in here, like for the football. So some of that money, some of the things that they're doing was donated by the Raiders Stadium. So there's costs in here that we aren't even going to see. So it's just making sure that, like Marcus, has said, it's in budget and we're promoting our students to do the activities that they want to do, even though we know it's out of state and it's an overnight trip.
well, an AR 216 is being updated tonight under, later on, which it took out the limit of 1 per semester of out of state and 2 per year. So that is being updated. I can't remember off the top of my head the other AR that requires board approval on these, but that would be the one that we would need to look at.
Well, and again, in this, that it is showing as we passed earlier this year that it does need to come out of the activity fund and they need to reimburse. And each of these does have that. I think going back to the same policy, we would need to just state that if it's over and above what's in their activity fund or what can be supported by their activity fund, then they would need our approval because then we would have to fit the bill, right? So
Yeah.
somewhere along that.
At that point, Trustee Zinke, it'd become an unbudgeted expenditure, right? And we'd have to bring it to the board anyways.
So then, dare I ask, why are we voting on this right now?
So this item got put on the agenda at the request of Trustee Knighting.
Okay.
This is a policy that's been in place for a long time. As I searched the records, I couldn't find a time where these were actually brought to the board. So we haven't been in compliance with our own board policy. So
great.
this is an attempt to get into compliance, but also receive direction from the board. So we heard you loud and clear, and we will course correct.
Sounds good. But in the meantime, we either need to approve or not approve this. Yeah, I'm just saying like that is something that we need to. No, we already took public comment on consent items.
Not the one we pulled.
Okay. Well, we can do it again. That's fine. Okay, so before we take a motion, we will open it up for public comment on the out of state and overnight travel agenda item. Seeing as there is none, we will close public comment, bring it back to the board for a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the out-of-state and overnight field trip
I'll second.
expenditures.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Zinke, a second by Ms. Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we will move on to agenda item number 5. Sanctioning of lacrosse at designated DCSD schools.
Okay, let me just grab the mouse really quick. Can I call up Dan Singer? Tammy, if you don't mind coming up. Is Ian here today? Ian, if you don't mind coming up. Okay, this is going to be a collaborative presentation, but before we get started, I'd like to have our presenters do an introduction of themselves. So Mr. Sanger, if you don't mind getting us started.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Sanger, Athletic Director at Douglas High School.
Ian Anderson. I'm a board member of the High Sierra Lacrosse League.
Hi, I'm Tammy Evans. I'm the Vice President of the Douglas Lacrosse Board.
Okay, as we get started into this presentation, I do want to point out that we had 2 trustees that requested this item come to the board. But I also want to point out that in Mrs. Willoughby's presentation, she did explain how tight our budget is, right? And we are already over budget on 1 item. This request or sanctioning item is technically not budgeted. So as we get into the presentation, we will highlight that, but also share that this is a new sport in the state of Nevada, recently sanctioned by NIAA. And our guests here are going to present information on the history of Douglas lacrosse. I don't have that context, but I felt it was important for the board to understand that context. And I also want to thank Mr. Sanger, Ms. Evans, as well as Ms. Slang and Mrs. Willoughby for their collaborative efforts to put together this presentation and really understand the sport. I didn't play lacrosse. I don't think I've ever watched a lacrosse game, so I don't know. I think some of our board members.
It's a lot of fun.
So it was a learning experience for Mr. Sanger and myself, but I hear it's a fun sport, and I'm glad that we're bringing this opportunity to the board. So here we go. So moving forward, I'd like to pass this off to Mr. Sanger just to share student interest.
All right. So, student community, we're looking at student interest. I was asked we are in the first week of school, so I just want to remind you that the interest survey was quick to get put up and go through, but we did want to at least give you a little bit of interest. I created it and then made it live on Tuesday and kept it live until about 10 a.m. this morning for students to take a survey on their interest. When we posted this yesterday, it was 21 to 5 with boys lacrosse and girls lacrosse. It has now moved up to 33 with boys and 5 with girls. That's the student interest. I completely understand the data. It was a quick turnaround. Some of our students don't even have Chromebooks yet to be able to take the survey. But we wanted to at least present you some numbers with that. Main thing about lacrosse is the ability to give us institutional support. Douglas High School, as well as our athletic department, being able to have oversight of the sport, make sure that it is in compliance with the NIA and all of the expectations that they have on us, from grades and eligibility to the alcohol, tobacco, and drug policy, and also the ability that we have and the resources we have at the high school with our athletic training, and those kind of things. So, and as well as the official transportation, with it being a club, as I'm sure most of you know, it was their own transportation. They had to take themselves to events, and by putting it as a Douglas County School District sport, as well as at Douglas High School, we have the ability to now have school transportation take them to their events. And one of the big things is the NCAA pathway. It's the ability to give our students and our student athletes one more sport as a potential pathway to college, whether that's through scholarship, whether that's through other opportunities. It is an NCAA pathway, whether it's going to be a club sport going in, whether that they're going to play a club sport in college, like lacrosse could be at some of our universities, or a actual sanctioned NCAA division sport. So those are the things that we want to talk about there. All right, NIAA. So I'm going to follow along as well with my little notes, since I can't even come close to reading that. So like Mr. Alvarado had said, the NIAA has sanctioned the sport of lacrosse, boys and girls, for the state of Nevada, and to start this spring in 2027. So main thing about sanctioning a sport, why is this important? Why are we bringing it to the board today? And why are we talking about this? All of our sanctioned sports at Douglas High School can only compete against other schools who have sanctioned sports. We can't go against club sport teams. Washoe County in July has sanctioned the sport of lacrosse. With Douglas currently in order to continue playing lacrosse in Northern Nevada, it would have to be a sanctioned sport. Washoe makes up 6 out of the 9 men's teams and 6 out of the 9 women's teams. So, like I said, with them sanctioning, and Truckee has already sanctioned it, as well as Bishop Manogue. So right now, out of those numbers, out of the 9 teams in the north for men's and out of the 9 teams in the north for women's, Douglas is the only one that hasn't sanctioned yet. If without sanctioning the sport, there will be no sport, or there will be no lacrosse for our Douglas students as well as our community to play. That's just, I wanted to let you guys know that. It's for all of our sports that way. A sanctioned sport can only play other sanctioned schools as well as sports. One thing Mr. Alvaro had mentioned already, Douglas did not put it into the fiscal year 27 budget. Washoe County had. They put it into their budget, so the sanctioning process for Washoe County was a lot easier than it would be right now for Douglas. High Sierra League Foundation, they've built a very competitive Northern Nevada program, as I'm sure I will have the people sitting next to me talk about, giving Douglas student athletes direct regional competition. And like I told you before, there's been currently 9 boys programs and 9 girl programs in the north. We already kind of talked about this with college recruiting. Formal varsity recognition expands NCAA recruitment pathways. It also allows our Douglas students to earn varsity letters through Douglas High School, as well as hang gym banners if they win regional and state championships. And it's also equal access to school training facilities. And the last one here is implementation readiness. What you're going to see is that approval right now or in the near future of this will help us hire coaches, establish schedules, and make us a permanent part of that schedule. It'll allow us time to purchase needed equipment and also secure the facilities that we will need for the NIA season, which is the spring season, which starts in the middle of February.
Okay, to sum up this slide, a reminder to the board, and you heard it in the fiscal presentation earlier, the district is on fiscal watch. We were placed on fiscal watch on May 19th. So we're being heavily monitored by the Department of Taxation. Because this is an unbudgeted expenditure, we are going to have to rely on external revenue to cover this. We don't have the dollars within our budget to transfer or to absorb within the general fund. And so I'd like to roll into the next slide. To kind of share what we would be receiving from our generous partners, Douglas Lacrosse here. And then I have new information that I just received right before this meeting that will demonstrate that we do have enough external revenue to cover this, but it just has not been received by the board or by the district. And then we'll get into our recommendation later. Okay,
Superintendent Alvaro, do you want questions at the end or as we go, or how do you want to?
I think you could ask as we go. So yeah, if you have questions now.
Okay, well, I have a question for our panel here. Mr. Sanger, you say that effectively not sanctioning this kills the club team. Every other sport at Douglas has a club team or a travel team. There's travel baseball and softball. There's club volleyball. There's AAU for basketball, and they're all thriving. And so I'm curious, and that's why I'm asking this question. Please don't assume I'm going any direction. I'm getting to the bottom as I always do. Would club lacrosse still exist in Washoe County at that level, even with this sanctioned? Would it just change the season, or do we know that answer?
So I have had discussions with High Sierra as well as our local clubs. From what I have been told, and I'll let them jump in if I say this wrong, High Sierra has been pushing along high school sanction. They've been wanting the NIA to sanction this, and they've been pushing and pursuing our schools to move from High Sierra club status to a sanctioned status. The goal for High Sierra is once they get the high school sanctioned, which they were very successful, at least with Washoe County and Truckee, that they plan to go K-8 from now on as their club status, and there will be no club season during our varsity season. It'll only be a sanctioned NIA season. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think
Make sure you state your name. For the
sorry,
record.
my name's Tammy Evans. Usually the club sports are on the off season, right? So like for soccer, they play fall for high school and then they play club for spring. So right now, as the way we play our club in the spring. So getting sanctioned and being able to play with the high school, our season would be official for the spring. And then there would be potential, perhaps, I don't know, it depends on Washoe, whether you would have a club season perhaps in the fall, kind of the alternate seasons. Is that
Yeah, I mean, because that is how it works. Basketball, when
Right.
it finishes up, goes straight into AAU. Travel baseball has several teams. I want to get to that because you're telling us it's going to die, and I'm telling you I don't think it is. It might in the
just-
short term, but for all the other teams, and I would actually make the argument that all of those are how NCAA recruits as well. Like I trust me, I want lacrosse at the high school. Don't get me wrong, but we are in a financial pinch. And so I will tell you, basketball is recruited off of AAU, not high school. So is softball, is travel ball, baseball, travel ball, golf from international and events. High school is not necessarily the path to the NCAA. It's part of it for sure, but it's not the end all be all. So
Sure.
Anyway.
I would just, my only comment on that would be that I think you'll see diminished player participation if there's not a high school spring season. The club would be unable to play locally in Northern Nevada against the teams because they will be sanctioned and they'll be under the NIA rules. So from February 1st, you can correct me if I'm wrong, February 1st through May 15th. February 15th, May 15th, they'd be unable to play. So then you would see diminished participation would be my estimation for the club season, which starts, through the summer and the fall and winter as well. So that would be the effect of that. So yes, there would be an opportunity, but would you have the continued success in terms of participation for those club programs to continue on? Also, I would just say that you have many multi-sport athletes. So those multi-sport athletes are playing football in the fall, so they're not as available to play the club during that time. Thank you.
Any other questions before we move forward? Okay, so on the next slide, we're going to not only,
Hold
Sorry,
on.
one question.
Ms. Miller.
Was High Sierra at the April NIAA meeting in Clark County when they talked about all of this and with Desert Dogs and for Clark County and everything?
We've been at participating in the NIA meetings. Yes, the April meeting, I'm not sure, but we were at the legislature. Obviously, a bunch of your student athletes were at the legislative hearing, and then subsequent to that, connecting with NIA administration and at the meetings to help inform and provide some information about lacrosse and the sanctioning effort.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that our community understands that, you've been a major part of this and gone to, with the NIA, making sure that this has,
Sure.
been an ongoing process. It's not something that just all of a sudden popped
Yeah,
up.
High Sierra Lacrosse has been around for 20 years, providing both high school club and youth athletics. During that time, we've set up our high school program to be in alignment with NIAA regulations with the goal that we would have a smooth transition. So we have everything from residency requirements, et cetera, that is compliant with the NIAA rules. As the NIAA rules have changed, we've changed our rules or our high school rules to be in compliance with that so that we could do that. So when we reached out to NIAA over the years, trying to understand how we could move forward on a sanctioning thing, and then after the legislature had hearings last year that helped facilitate moving it forward. And so we've been working with, subsequent to that, with the NIAA to provide any information that we could and any support.
Thank you.
okay, so Tammy or Ian, before we jump into the donations here, can you just give the historical context of Douglas Lacrosse?
Sure. I think we talked about, I'll do the historical Douglas and then he'll take the High Sierra. So I had to write this down. But thank you to Frankie and Dan for letting us participate in this discussion. As I introduce myself, my name is Tammy Evans. I grew up here. I teach kindergarten here at MES. This is our second day, so words might be hard for me. So just, I also raised two boys here. Me too, went through the Douglas school system. My youngest son, Alex, just graduated and is preparing to start his freshman year in college. He has played lacrosse since 8th grade, including all 4 years of high school. He was fortunate enough to join the Douglas lacrosse team as a freshman with a group of other students who played together and became close. They looked out for each other, helped each other, and supported each other all the way through high school. That is the type of community that Douglas lacrosse has strived to create since its inception nearly a decade ago. In that last decade, Douglas Lacrosse has consistently fielded a varsity team, and in these last 2 years, we have also fielded a JV team. Last year's JV team became co-ed with the addition of 2 female athletes. The varsity team has improved over the last 4 years, both skill-wise and record-wise, with our coach winning Coach of the Year in 2025 season due to the team's growth and improvement. Personally, I have served as a vice president on our board for the past 3 years and have learned a whole new sport and a whole new set of rules. I have sat in the snow, the rain, the wind, and the heat, keeping stats for our team and watching how this team, from the adults to the players, support and lift each other up. I have seen players support each other through the highs and the lows of the seasons. I have seen these players love the game and each other, regardless of the score on the scoreboard. I am here tonight to advocate for the board to join the lacrosse community and support this sport and these players, even though my son will not be able to suit up as a Tiger in its inaugural season. This is how passionate we are about this. In voting to approve the onboarding of lacrosse as a high school sport, you are allowing these kids to continue playing the sport that they love. They are not asking the district to create a new sports program. We are asking the district not to take away their sport. If the board, like Dan said, does not support lacrosse, then our team will have no teams to play. As a board in a district, I understand that you have worked hard to make sure that our financial emergency does not harm student programs. Lacrosse is a student program, and I urge you to support the growth of the sport in our community. These students who are just waiting to be there are students who are just waiting to be introduced to lacrosse and are more likely to play lacrosse if it's a varsity sport, due in part to support from the high school with things like transportation as well as visibility of the sport within the high school itself.
Again, I'm Ian Anderson from the High Sierra Lacrosse League. We're a volunteer-run organization with a volunteer board and all volunteer participants. The league's been around for 20 years. Last year, we had 600 high school athletes playing on our club and 500 youth participants. During that time, it's been a community effort, a true community effort, just like it is in Douglas here. And we're very blessed to have had the support of both families and the community in general that allow us to do that. The organization set up, and we sort of have 2 parts. We have the High Sierra Lacrosse League, which is the operations that help run, get the field striped, all that sort of stuff. And then we have a foundation that fundraises on behalf of the lacrosse and the ability to grow the game. It's provided over those 20 years $890,000 in support to grow the game. Much of that is through scholarships for registrations for both youth and high school, goals, balls, striping, and all the sort of stuff that goes to run a sport. The volunteer aspect of that is pretty important. We've done all the scheduling, paying the referees and all that sort of stuff during that time so that we could make this opportunity available for student athletes. And we're very thankful for Washoe County and Clark County and the NIA sanctioning the sport. We think it will greatly benefit the student athletes, and we look forward to working with Douglas County in any way we can that we do that. That's a bit about a brief overview of lacrosse in Northern Nevada. And then in particular to Douglas County, the High Sierra Lacrosse League is creating a stipend or support of $4,000. The High Sierra Lacrosse Foundation has committed $6,667 to support that as well. That is equitable across all of the programs that we have. So whether it's Reed High School or Truckee or Churchill County or whatever, we have that amount of money that we've done, and we've made it equal for all the participating schools. And we look forward to continuing to support this effort as we move forward. We believe that providing this opportunity for students, you know better than I do that the outcomes on social, emotional, and academic for student athletes, improves when they're engaged and they're on the field. And so we're very supportive of you guys reviewing this, and we're very thankful for your time today.
As we move forward in this presentation, I do want to highlight the equipment donation came out to just over $32,000, which is a substantial savings for the implementation of the sport. Okay, now it's time to
Question about equipment. How old is some of this equipment? When was the last time it was purchased? That would be more of a Douglas. That would be her, not you. I'm just saying. Oh, can you turn the microphone on?
Teacher voice. I do know that the chest pads are all up to date. With the regulations, all of this equipment was in the last probably 2 or 3 years purchased. The uniforms are new. We've only used them one season. The goals are brand new. We've got those from Ian. As are the creases and the cones. So within the last 2-3 years, I don't know the exact dates, but within the last 2 or 3 years, we've kind of, when we've needed them, we've replaced them. So that's how come I can't give you a exact number on all of them.
Right. How often do the chest pads need to be replaced?
So it's just how they get used. There was a change in the regulations 2 years
Correct.
ago for the chest pads, and they needed to create they needed to have a padding for
cardiac pad.
for that chest pad. So at that point in time, everybody, and again, the regulations that we had were consistent with the national high school regulations, and so anybody that was playing on the club level needed to be in compliance with that. So anything that's listed there would be in compliance on that side.
Okay. Thank you.
How many of these items do the athletes have their own version of? Like baseball players have their own bats most of the time. I would assume lacrosse
Yeah.
players have their own stick, but
So I'll let Tammy go in a little bit. So that's kind of the discussion that we've been having. When we get to the next one, and when we get to the next slide, we talk about how we priced everything out. It was the thought process, and I've had a couple conversations with our Douglas Lacrosse about that exact thing. A lot of the times, in Washoe, I know that they are providing, and you can change it if it's wrong, they're providing the helmets and the chest protectors, since they do have to be certified in that NOC SAE. I don't even want to begin to think about or tell you what that all means, but I could probably give it a go. But with the helmets and the chest protectors, with having to have that certification, I know Washoe has committed to providing those equipment. And then what I've been told is a lot of the gloves, the elbow pads, the sticks would be more of a player expense. And I guess I'll let Tammy speak to a little bit more on that.
So historically, as a club team, the players that could afford to supplied their own equipment. As a club, we had sets of equipment that players were allowed to rent or use throughout the seasons. So it kind of depended on the player. If the player wanted their own equipment, that's what they brought. And if they needed us to help them so that they could play, because as a club, we really worked on the idea that we were not going to turn anybody away. So if they wanted to play, we found a way. And a lot of times that was letting them use the club's equipment.
Okay, we're now getting into the financial impact. There's a lot of operational data here and financial data. What I asked the board is to try to stay in the oversight range at the 30,000 foot level. So Mr. Sanger will kind of share how he went out to do the cost analysis for some of these items. And then we'll talk about total financial impact for each of the programs.
All right. So bear with me. A lot of these are, I'm going to let you know, estimated based on what the conversations I've had with Douglas and High Sierra with participation numbers and so on and so forth. So I'm going to kind of make my way down. You're going to see that estimated cost, of course, is an asterisk. And then we talked about donations, equipment donations, and those kind of things. And we're trying to ease all of this in because all of that is estimated as well. So looking at our salary schedule and our stipend, I used soccer as our best reference. So that is a head coach with an assistant coach or a JV coach. It's kind of both. If we have a JV team, it's the JV coach. And if it's just a varsity team, it would be an assistant coach. Those stipends individually, the head coach would be $3,889. The JV coach or the assistant coach is $2,593. So as you can see, with a girls program and a boys program, it comes out to $6,482 would be the total stipend number for each of those, for all 4 of those coaching positions. Player equipment. All right. So I have been working with our local BSN rep as well as other areas and trying to figure out what we're going to need. The number you see, that 11,800, would be what we would need to spend on top of the donations that have already come in. And I'll explain that with the boys program. We figured that our local program has been about 40 to 45 players over the last few years with a JV and a varsity. in order to make sure that we had enough equipment, at least the helmet and the chest protector, I just rounded that to 50 as just to kind of keep us in that realm of making sure that we had enough, because we don't know if the numbers are going to go up or go down or stay about the same. So with that, the donation that came from Douglas was 25 helmets and 27 chest protectors. So I just went on and talked to BSN and looked at some and talked with the club coach, Braden Worthington. And I said, hey, what helmets do you guys have? And he kind of gave me a look at what they have. So I kind of matched that brand and that helmet. And it came up to about 25 helmets and at about $265 a piece, which is part of that number right there. The chest protectors, we need 23 of them, depending on what chest protector you get, because you can get the one with the nice shoulder pad and arm pad and so on and so forth. Those are about 150. And then the other one that the BSN and our rep quoted me with was anywhere between 60 and 100. So right there, that's 23 chest protectors. And then since Douglas is donating 10 sticks, that's a purchase of 10 additional sticks at $70 a piece, and then 2 full goalie equipment. So when it comes to player equipment, those are the numbers I used. That comes out to the $11,800, but that is in addition to the generous donation from Douglas Lacrosse of $15,895 worth of player equipment that would be coming to us. The number I used for that would just be replacement costs. If we didn't have 25 helmets getting donated, what would it cost to replace 25 helmets? Same thing with the chest protectors, the elbow pads, and so on and so forth. With the girls program, you see 4,000 right there. For anyone who doesn't know lacrosse, the girls and boys program or lacrosse is very different. Physical on the boys side and more like basketball on the girls side. With less contact. So with that, the $4,000, we looked at a girls program since we haven't had one in the club level for some years. We said, all right, if it's just going to be a varsity program, we're going to aim for that 20 number. So that's what I projected here. 20 goggles, 20 sticks, and 2 full goalie sets. And it came to around that number. And that's where I have that estimated cost. Uniforms, as you can see, it's 0 on the boys side because we are being donated if it's sanctioned with full varsity set and a full JV set of uniforms. It's about 75 jerseys from what I was told, 30 varsity and about 45 JV. So came out to about $12,000 worth of a donation. And then the girls program to go get a jersey for home and away, about 20 of, or it would be 30 just in case there was an expanded number, or with sizing, you just got to make sure that you have equal amount there. It came out to about $4,200. That's 30 jerseys, home and away. And then referees, I used what I pay on average per year with soccer. I understand that soccer for boys and girls, right now we have more league games, so that number is going to be a little bit more inflated than probably what lacrosse looks like. We also live in Douglas County. We pay higher travel costs for our referees because they are usually coming from Reno, and that's part of the cost as well. So that's roughly budgeted at $10,000 if we would have 3 programs, a JV, a varsity boys program, and a varsity girls. Transportation was calculated by Mr. Alvarado in terms of how much it is per mile to go to each of those games. And we looked at the current projected schedule for next season for Douglas and the boys, and we kind of used those numbers to come up with that. And then facility and facility prep, you're going to see turf crease markings, which are being donated. So that's not a cost towards the boy program or the girls program because there's 2 sets, so 4 total, I believe is what I was told. They're donating 6 goals, which would be good enough to put 2 on the soccer field, 2 on our turf field, as well as 2 to use for practice and so on and so forth, as well as paint, depending on what field we are playing on. That's gonna now be a Douglas High School and Douglas County School District cost to paint the fields and get the field ready for games in the season. And then as you can see, the total donations, we split the 13,667 coming from High Sierra and Douglas. That number comes from the 10,667 that Ian just talked about, as well as the $3,000 that the Douglas Parent Board has also and we're going to get into that in the next slide, so that'll make more sense, that they have donated. So that's an initial startup donation of 13,667, and then you see the cost there on the bottom. Yeah, any questions on that one? Because that was a lot over the last few weeks. So
Let me just provide a little bit more information. So timeline wise, Washoe approved and sanctioned their sport on July 28th. I received a request from multiple trustees immediately after. We've had just around 3 weeks to prepare this. So we're trying to provide you as accurate information as possible. If you look at the top, the cost for the boys program after donations would be $19,214. Because the interest is so low for girls lacrosse, what could happen is we could take the donation that was allocated over to the girls program, move that over to the boys program, and that makes the financial impact just over $12,000.
Still holding out hope for a girls team though.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I am as well.
Be good.
Any questions on this before we move forward on outside funding sources?
So obviously, based on Mr. Singer's numbers, 33 boys up from 21, which is great news. But 5 is still holding strong. For the girls, if the girls want to then play on the boys program, I believe NIAA would allow them, because I believe last year we already had 2 females play on our JV team.
yeah, so I can go in a little bit depth. I knew that would probably be a question, so I did reach out to the NIA to get the clarification. If there is a boys and a girls program, boys will have to play with boys and girls will have to play on the girls team. If there is a boys program and no girls program, then any interested party could be on the boys program. So I think that is basically what you were saying. I just want to clarify that I did get that answer.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions before we go forward? Okay, so this is information about a community and grant support. Before Mr. Sanger shares information here, I do want to thank Ashley Mitchell. As we met, Mr. Sanger, Mrs. Willoughby, and myself, we did ask Ashley Mitchell to look into a grant. She quickly applied, and we will definitely hear back on September 1st. And that would cover 20 helmets for the program.
Yeah, so to speak into that, like I said, the previous slide had us purchasing 25 helmets for the boys program. That grant would pay up to 20, and we're hoping to find out by September 1st. That would cut the boys program funding, at least on the player equipment, in half. So 20 helmets at $289 a piece is a little over $6,000. That would make a pretty big dent into what we would have to have in order to get the program going. So on this slide, you're going to see, and this has been said a couple times now, High Sierra has committed to donating $10,667. That is in order to help us jumpstart the program, transition the program, as well as help with those ref costs, equipment costs, and things like that. As well as the Douglas Lacrosse Parent Board has committed to $3,000 a year for the first 3 years of sanctioning. So that's $9,000 over the 3-year span, $3,000 to start this year. Mr. Alvarado has talked to our DHS boosters group, so I'll let you talk more about that.
Yeah, so as we were preparing this presentation, I reached out to the boosters to ask if they would support implementation of a new sport at Douglas High School. Their first scheduled meeting is tomorrow, right before the football game. So what Alicia Main did is she contacted me right before the meeting, said she called an emergency meeting with her group, and they would donate $12,800 for implementation of the program, which means that we can fully fund this through outside revenue. Unfortunately for us, we can't spend money until we receive it, right? You never want to spend money. So we would wait, receive her donation by check, get that process. Terry would then bring that next month for the board to receive that. And then I guess as we get to the recommendation here, we'll talk about next steps for the board.
All right. And the last slide I've provided is the facility and game operations. So current field usage, our club team has been using our soccer field for the practices and playing of the JV games, and they've been they've been in the DHS stadium for the varsity contests. So I kind of wanted just to kind of look at what that looks like. DHS in the stadium on the turf, it's a low maintenance option for field prep as long as it meets the NFHS standards. I do not know, and maybe Ian can answer this, whether or not they're going to allow, without the official lines of lacrosse, to continue on turf, if that's a club thing, or whether or not they're going to be okay with it and we can use those portable creases and everything's going to be okay, or if we're going to have to either paint temporary lines on the turf or just use the soccer field. So that's the question that I haven't really had answered yet. As long as that's the case, it'd be a low maintenance option that way. Stadium light costs are a thing that we have to consider. With having night games, that does cost money. Stadium used for DHS track and field also during the spring for practices as well as meets. So we would have to work with the league in order to kind of judge what that would look like to make sure that our track athletes and field athletes, because if you've been to a track meet, our discus ring goes right through the middle of the field. So it would be a concern. We wouldn't be able to have practice and a game going on at the same time. The option, the DHS soccer field, like I said, it's been the practice field for the club lacrosse team over the last few years. We'd have to paint it to meet the NFHS standards. The NIA or the NFHS has adopted a universal field for both boys and girls lacrosse. I don't know if that's something that High Sierra as well as the NIA, I don't know if that's something we're going to go with, or we're going to have a boys and girls field to get painted. But the thing about the soccer field is we don't have any winter or spring sports on that field. So it is open during that time, which makes it a great location for it to be the DHS lacrosse and soccer field, both of which will require facility storage, which we've talked about, to be able to house all of the equipment for lacrosse in a secure and safe environment. And we can look into that as we move forward.
Any questions?
So I have a question, because obviously you brought up track and field and lacrosse at the same time. Obviously, this is going to be across the entire Northern Nevada region because, now that it's being sanctioned across Washoe County, which is the majority of our competitors for Douglas, and Truckee, when they're doing their track and field practice, where is their lacrosse going to play? So also same thing for games. So I think your question comes across for how they're going to be doing that scheduling across the board for getting together with lacrosse and track and field across the entire Northern Nevada region.
I agree. It's going to be something that all the schools are going to have to work around with having multiple spring sports. And I'll let Tammy talk.
We've already had to do that, right? So when we were a club, we worked around track and field schedule, and we worked around the track and field practice. We worked around track and field meets, as did Northern Nevada lacrosse in general. So I like to think of us as good partners working around the track and field and working around those schedules. So, we've done that already, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually that big of a concern. The track meets have a couple locations for each meet with a bunch of schools at them. Those schools would just have away games that day. You guys can practice on the soccer field, as I'm aware. So I think that's really a non-issue.
Okay, moving forward, in effort to provide the board with, all the information regarding lacrosse, but also the mechanisms and levers that you can pull for funding for sports. The board can consider a student pay to play. Right now, we have not instituted that. I don't know if the board's ever considered that, but I can tell you several sports do require a spirit pack purchase, ranging from $100 to $400. So student pay to play is different, as it would not cover equipment. It would only cover operational cost, right? So when students buy a spirit pack, they typically get a t-shirt, warm-ups, or other apparel from that sport. So district administration is providing this, like I said, just as information. We are not recommending this due to the fact that we're on fiscal watch. It may be prudent for the board to request a full analysis and presentation on the implementation of pay-to-play programs within the district. So as you get to the future agenda items later today, if that's something you want to pursue, you can ask for that at that point. And I believe the athletes in Douglas Lacrosse are used to paying a fee annually. What is that amount annually?
We have a ASB fee and it's $35 annually.
Okay, and then how about Douglas Lacrosse?
This last year was $400. We had to raise the cost because we knew that we were in need of new uniforms. So this year it was a little bit higher than the last couple years. Obviously that can be a considerable hardship for families. So as a board, we have also, again, I want to reiterate, we did not ever want to turn anybody away. So we did offer multiple scholarships and multiple opportunities for these players to play.
Okay. All right. On our last slide, our recommendation, I will also have CFO Terry Willoughby provide her recommendation as well. And I've talked about us being on fiscal watch. We've mentioned that this is a new unbudgeted expense, which raises a concern with the CLGF. I've spoken with a member of the CLGF, and what he told me is that if we make this expenditure without having outside revenue, we're going to lose a lot of trust with the Department of Taxation and be one step closer to a severe financial emergency, which is a state takeover, and we would lose local control. So our recommendation and the action proposed is to postpone any decision-making on this until we do receive the outside revenue to support the operational costs for this program. And then once again, DHS Boosters is willing to provide $12,800 to fully fund this through outside sources. Any questions by the board? And Mrs. Willoughby, do you want to give your recommendation?
Sure, Terry Willoughby for the record. Under Nevada Administrative Code, the only way you can increase a budget is if you have greater than anticipated fund balance, which we don't know that yet, or you have new revenue that you've received. So that's the only way you can increase. So my recommendation at this time is to not approve this, but to request that we bring it back after all the funds are received. And then we can augment the budget if there's sufficient we could increase the budget in the amount of the new revenue. It is, but under NRS 354, if you spend money that's not budgeted, it's a misdemeanor. So I know nobody has probably ever told anybody that, but it's Nevada NRS 354.626. So in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't be, we could probably find the money, but my recommendation is to wait until the funding from the boosters and everything is received, increase the budget and the amount of the new revenue.
Do we have, excuse me, do we have a projection on when that money will come in?
From the boosters,
Correct.
yeah, Alicia Main told me she would drop off a check tomorrow, but
Okay.
it still has to be processed, still has to be brought to the board to receive it.
Okay.
So I will tell you, I'm one of the bigger proponents of sports at Douglas High School, I promise you. And I really want to have lacrosse. I think it's a great avenue for the kids. It gives them another option to join a sport. I think sports are wildly important to growth and development and becoming a good, decent member of society. You lose and you get angry and you have to learn how to deal with it, and you win and you get excited and you have to temper your emotions and not rub it in people's face. There's so many life lessons from sports. Part of this cost that no one is really mentioning, but it is kind of on a slide here. It's not just the startup cost. The startup cost is obviously an exorbitant amount that it sounds like you have the funding for. So congratulations there. The reoccurring cost each year is a giant detriment. And when we have a budget of only 48,000 net positive, which is actually closer to 38,000 negative with the insurance issue, I really think we need to bump this at least a month, guarantee we have the funding for the startup cost, and then I don't want pay for play. I don't think that's fair to anyone. It segregates people based on income. which we already do plenty of, totally different topic. But spirit packs will help a ton. I know golf, we do them, baseball does, everyone does spirit packs, and they help with a lot of the cost. And then sometimes it's just for camaraderie and you get a sweatshirt that says lacrosse or whatever the sport is, which is just as important. But I think if you guys can prove you have the funding, get the actual donation from Douglas Boosters, which Alicia Main, you're incredible. That's awesome. Show that you have all of this and eliminate the girls program. I'm sorry, 5 girls is not enough interest for any sport other than golf, I think, at the school. And we've had a golf team with less than 5 girls on it. So that then take that money to the boys' side and show that you have it with coffers. I think you guys need to also show that you have a little more than what the startup cost is because of the reoccurring costs. And at that point, I'm all for it. Please.
That's really one of the reasons that our board, the Douglas Lacrosse Board, offered the $3,000 for the next 3 years. We understand that that is a big concern. Absolutely. So that's a guarantee from us for the next 3 years that you will be able to have some of that money to offset that cost. Additionally, and I believe Ian can speak to this, that $6,000 was donated or was received by a grant from the foundation, which will have money next year if you guys would like to apply for a grant in that, right? They can reapply for a grant.
Yeah, the High Sierra Lacrosse Foundation has a grant program, so it's just a matter of filling it out. I can't speak to, I'm not on that board, so I can't speak to that, but it's an opportunity as USA Lacrosse.
Because you can see the conundrum we're in, right? We're literally closing schools and consolidating schools and telling people they no longer work for the district. And then we're going to go basically to the cost of a hired position, spend money. So I think if you guys can prove you have it and can show that there's the concerted effort to maintain funding moving forward, please show me. That's what I want to see for sure.
Question that I have is, I know that as a club sport and a parent of students that have played club sports for lacrosse, you have to have a U.S. lacrosse membership, which is how our insurance is covered. Is that something that translates into the NIAA, or is that not necessary anymore?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
So that's not.
Thank you. Yes.
How many people are carried on a team in lacrosse?
So I did some research. I was actually pretty happy that I knew, but for girls is 12 players on the field at a time. For guys, it's 10 players on the field at a time. And through my discussions, a solid team, 20 to 22 players minimum. From what I have been told, you'd want at least 15, 16. Is that about right? Yeah. All right. Cool. Those conversations paid off.
Ms. Miller and then Mr. Brady.
This is great that we've been able to apply for a grant, but we don't know when we're getting that, obviously in another week or two. It's great to see the community, with our club sport coming to the table. It's great to see, one of the lacrosse league who has, helped work with the NIAA, work with Washoe, come to the table as well. Again, like Mr. Zinke has stated, we're in a really tough position, and until we can show as we have CLGF probably watching our board meeting tonight, watching to see what kind of decision we make. And if we make the wrong one, it will impact negatively, not just on our lacrosse team, but on our entire district. So we need to make sure that we tread this very carefully. But I think that's amazing that our community is willing to show up and support this sport that I know one of my older two have played as well. So thank you.
Is this item time sensitive?
Mr. Sanger, when does the NIAA need confirmation that it's been sanctioned in Douglas County?
That's a great question. I don't have that answer. I know that the goal would probably be that they want to make sure that if we're sanctioning it, that we can be an official member of that schedule. The schedule, like I said, the preliminary schedule for lacrosse in the North has been out, and we are currently on it preliminary, just because they pulled it from last year. But I don't have that exact answer on when we would need to have it officially approved. I can definitely get that though, probably by tomorrow.
It was stated in the NIAA meeting back in April, the drop down deadline to join the schedule is in January. But what we have a problem with is then hiring coaches and the implementation side of it. So I don't think waiting till January is an appropriate thing. I think maybe pushing it out one more month, but I don't know if hiring the coaches is going to be a big issue.
Oh, yeah.
And then scheduling with buses.
Definitely, I would agree with that. We would want this, earlier rather than later. It helps us, from our perspective, get everything that we need where we need it and make sure that we're ready for February.
If I may.
Mr. Brady.
I concur with Mr. Zinke's comments. What I'm seeing is a lot of one-time money. I think it's important that we try and manage expectations into the future. What about next year and the year after and the year after? This is what the CLGF is going to be looking at. And granted, we have some time to get these numbers narrowed down, but I want to know where we're going to be in year 2, 3, and 4.
Do we know what the reoccurring cost each year is? Because some of these numbers are startup numbers, but what does it cost to run the program year after year after year?
Well, and you have to think about, sticks break, pads get ripped, helmets get smashed. So that equipment has to be replenished regularly.
Yes. So Mr. Sanger and I discussed that. So under the total estimated cost on slide 7 at the very bottom, there's $48,496. That's our estimated ongoing cost annually. It's just missing 2 more asterisks next to it.
Okay, well, so I think we need more information. I would love to see this next board meeting, because when I did the little chicken scratch from the financial impact and budget, if you take the recurring costs that we clearly know are recurring, transportation, facility prep, referees, it's nowhere near that number. Obviously you would factor, and maybe Ms. Willoughby could help with that. You would factor in or ChatGPT could probably help us, a percentage of uniforms and helmets that get damaged on a 15-man roster and incorporate that into a budget. And so what I think would be super beneficial, move this to next meeting, have you come back. I know that it's hard to come to these meetings. I know, because I come to all of them. But come back, show us you have the funding, get us the reoccurring numbers that it would be for sure. Show us your donation efforts. I'll be the first one to donate, promise you right now. And then we can make a decision. We just don't have enough information right now, and we certainly don't have the money, and I'm not about to break the law. So if you guys are willing to do that, it would be amazing. That's my take. I certainly can make that a motion if we need to, but I don't think we need to if we're just going to move it.
There's no action required by
Yeah.
the board.
Correct. I do want to say that I know, Mr. Zinke, earlier you said if we only have 5 girls, we should eliminate the program. Pre-COVID, we had a way better girls team than we had boys team. And I think that the interest is there, and I don't want to negate that program for our girls' sake. I know my daughter is a freshman and is like, if you sanction it, I'm totally playing. So,
Is she one of these 5?
I have no idea.
I mean, I would argue the interest
I would
isn't
say-
there.
But
It-
I would say that, it's only been 2 days. So maybe we ask Mr. Singer to ask again.
Yeah, so I did close it for 10 a.m. this morning just because I knew we were going in the board meeting. And I tried to make it a little bit more, had to be the student taking the survey. So if any parents went on, they probably got told that they weren't allowed to, because I was trying to keep it student only.
I agree.
I didn't want to double up. I didn't have a parent do it and then a student do it as well. I didn't want those numbers to be like that. So I tried as best I could for 2 days to get those numbers, but that is something I can definitely reopen. It is currently closed, like I said, but I can reopen it, send it out, and have a little bit more time to have that discussion and see if those numbers grow. I knew those numbers were going to be a little interesting with only about 36 hours to take it. So
I have a question though. So when you're looking at the survey and you have the boys versus the girls, obviously our girls, you know, if they've played on the boys team, they can then put their name into the boys one on the survey because that's where they've played. And those are different rules, and that's what they've learned over the last couple of years.
I agree. I will work on with a little bit more time. I'll try to get a little better survey there to make sure that we understand.
Well, and we
the
knew that, you
inclination.
know, obviously we knew school was starting on Monday. Our board meeting was Thursday. It was, you know, it's a very short time frame. Like Mr. Alvaro stated, Washoe just sanctioned it the week, you know, the last week of July as well. So
I think what's being missed right now in this exact conversation about the girls and the boys is if you do add the girls, that is not the 12,000, and we definitely don't have the money. And so as much as I'm against girls playing men's lacrosse with the men for all different reasons that we're not going to mention today, you got to start somewhere, and you are starting there, and you've put forth this giant effort, and I commend you for that. There's no way we can do both. And the interest, even in a 3-day, if there was really interest and people are really excited, people respond to surveys. I promise you. We have a girls golf team this year that has, I want to say 10 girls on it. Last year it had 4, maybe 5. It definitely fluctuates, but we cannot start and have this expenditure and then have 7 girls show up and not field a team. That would be lacrosse suicide, if for lack of a better word. So I think you have to stick to one program, get it going. They can help you with the fundraising for the girls program. You put forth this same effort. You keep your girls club team if you can, and you get your foot in the door.
The problem is that girls has already been sanctioned by Washoe,
Right.
so
We don't
our
have the
girls
money.
would not have.
I'm sorry.
No, I know. I'm just saying our girls would not have a team. They would not have teams to play.
There are teams in California, and
Mr. Brady.
AAU travels to California for 2/3 of their schedule. So I mean, again, if you're very interested in it, you will find a way. All the other sports do it all the time. But for the sake of this board and decision-making and not breaking the law and making a good decision, especially under the scrutiny that we are from the state and everyone around us for the decisions we're making that are super tough, you cannot have the girls program.
Mr. Brady.
Madam Chair, I'd like to suggest that for the record, we include the recommended action proposed on the presentation so that the CLGF has been made aware of our intent.
Are you going to make the motion, Mr. Brady?
I sure can.
Before we go to a motion, we're going to go to public comment. So if you three would step to the side. Yeah, you can stay. You can absolutely. Yes. Yes, public comment is open. Make sure you state your name for the record and
Can we, so
and-
in her defense, she just gave us a presentation. I don't think she needs to do public comment. I think she can say, yeah, I think you should just say it as part of your presentation, please. I don't want to limit you to 3 minutes, and you were clearly part of that presentation. So keep going.
Okay. Well, and it's just really quick in closing. And I want to reiterate again, I am a public school, I'm your employee. And I have had to lose the 5 days, and we have had to have these discussions. And so, and I'm not the only employee of yours that have kids playing on lacrosse. So I do want you to understand that we are sensitive to that issue. Absolutely. But one of the questions that you really need to think about, it's not whether our district can afford to give these students everything that they want, right? These students have already built this program. They've put in the work. They've found their teammates, and they have shown us that they want this opportunity by, for instance, showing up at that legislature during the sanctioning process. The community has stepped forward with funding, and I understand, Mr. Brady, that you want to see forward funding. That's one of the reasons that we have proposed the $3,000 in the next 3 years, so that we are sensitive to that as well. Tonight, you have the opportunity to give them something that the money can't create, a chance to belong. and to compete and to proudly put on that Douglas High School jersey and to represent their school. And I really hope that you give them this opportunity, whether it's this month or next month. Remember, we are trying not to impact the students with these financial issues, and this would impact your students. And I really appreciate you guys listening and considering this tonight.
Thank you. All right, so just a reminder, when you come up, please write your name on the piece of paper, state your name for the record, and watch the timer. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Joel Carter. I am one of the assistant coaches for Douglas Lacrosse. I am also the husband of a Douglas County School District employee and have one current student. She doesn't want to play lacrosse, but my son played for 4 years. Try to keep this pretty short. I know Braden's going to speak. I was hoping that I could kind of cover what he didn't get to. However, I have to get to Pop Warner football practice as well. So one thing that Mr. Zinke, you brought up, and all your points are always excellent. Thank you so much for what you guys do. And it's really important to us that you guys don't break the law by going over budget. But one thing you mentioned was AAU and club sports. They've only risen to prominence really in kind of recent years. When I was in high school, there wasn't club sports at the level that they are now. Club baseball was one, and then rec league basketball. You might travel a little bit if you were really good, but it wasn't like it is now where you have different levels, different leagues, and they travel all over the country. So saying that club sports are where people get recruited from, we have multiple kids that are going to attend D1 schools. One of them is going to Washington State this year. He will be attending a D1 school because of lacrosse. It'd been played at Douglas High School. And we've also got another kid that's got a D1 offer, but I'll let him talk about that if he wants to. Like baseball, we do get a lot of our own equipment. A lot of kids have personal choices when it comes to gloves, sticks, that sort of thing. So that was one point that you guys made. We want both boys and girls. We want both of them. We want both programs. I understand the financial impact. It was our understanding that they are two different sports. If you look at the rules, they are two completely different sports. So I know it was said that if there is a girls sport or a girls team that they could not play on the boys team. If you look at the rules, they are so different that I believe they could be considered different sports. And we have two girls that are tougher than a lot of the boys that we play with. I've seen Marley put down more boys than boys have put her down, trust me. And then we didn't really discuss fundraising very much. Douglas Lacrosse has been very successful at fundraising and bringing in a lot of funds. That's one thing that we can use to bring in a little bit more financial, stability. And I'm sure that the board could talk more about that. We also already support some sports at Douglas High School that have 0 gate fees. If we're playing on the high school field, we can charge entry, which is one thing. And then number of players, we want more players. The more, the better. Where a lot of the football players travel, we're paying for them to travel. $16,000 is the number that I heard. And most of them don't play a single play, where lacrosse, they all get a lot of playing time.
Thank you.
My name is Andrea Chinoda. This is Walker. This is the future of our sport. I've put 3 kids through this sport. Back when it started in 2017, my son went off to college after that and continued playing sports. I've put in 2 other. I currently have a senior, and he'll be playing in the future as well. I just wanted to touch back on what Mr. Brady said. He said that we were only donating $3,000, but we pledged to donate $3,000 per year, and that is coming from our fundraising. So to touch back on Coach Scholl's fundraising topic, yes, we're going to continue to fundraise. So we're going to continue to move this along. We've been doing it for the past 10 years just fine. We've had the children, the parents, we've made it work. We've done it. Every year our bank account is in a surplus, and that's how we're able to continue to donate. I don't think the money is going to be such an issue as you think it will be, because I have witnessed for 10 years the program come along, and how much we've made and how much we've given, and the scholarships we have given the children to make sure we turned away nobody. I just wanted to say that I also am a parent of 6 district students, so I have more coming into the program as well. And my husband works for the district as well, and I'm so excited. Please don't kill our sport. Please don't take away our opportunity for the kids to continue to play, because Washow's already there, Truckey's there, Bishop's there. We're the last ones, and I do feel that our sport will be done with if we don't follow in suit. Thank you.
Thank you. Does your sleeve say number 2?
Yeah.
How's my son's number?
All right. My name's Bear Brown, for the record. I'm a senior at Douglas High School. I've played lacrosse for 3 years, and I'm hoping to play 4th. I've had the opportunity to watch this program grow from the inside. As a captain for the past 3 years, I've had the chance to hear from and lead many of the players on this team. So tonight, I'm speaking not only from my own experience, but from the perspective I've gained from being a part of this team. I'm not here to talk about numbers or finances. I want to talk about what lacrosse means to me and the students who play it. To me, lacrosse is more than just a sport. It gives us a place to compete, think, communicate, and be a part of something bigger than ourselves. I've met some of my closest friends through this team, and I've watched the same thing happen to other players. For some of our students, lacrosse is their only sport. They found something they love and a group of people they belong with. We've built a real brotherhood. When I was a freshman, I was nervous to join because I was playing with older, more experienced players. Those players welcomed me and helped me grow. Now I get to watch the younger players have that same experience. And that's what makes it hard to imagine this program disappearing. Over the last few years, we've grown tremendously. Last year, we had both JV and varsity with around 40 students involved. We've become more competitive, we've had winning seasons, and we're finally starting to gain the recognition we've worked for. Only problem is we're still a club. If we aren't sanctioned, we lose our ability to compete. As other schools sanction lacrosse, our competition will disappear and our program will not be able to continue. So this simply isn't about adding another sport to Douglas High School. It's about giving a program that students have already built a future. I want the younger players on this team to have the same opportunities I've had. I want them to be able to make the friendships, learn the lessons, and build the memories that lacrosse has given me. We've spent years building something worth keeping. Please don't let this vote be where it ends, whether it's today or a month from now. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much.
Is it still on?
Yes, it is.
Still on. Okay. So I am Anissa Rose, for the record. I am a longtime lacrosse parent and the manager of the Carson Valley Youth Lacrosse Association here in your county. Today, I am here to add a little more in-depth history about lacrosse, call it a prequel, if you will. Lacrosse in Douglas County actually began in 2016 because of the efforts of 2 high school senior girls who transferred in from outside the district where they had lacrosse club opportunities in Central California and Northern Nevada. Over 2 months, Katarina Woolstein and Ashley Edwards, they ran social media and gathered at Lampe Park to share lacrosse with anyone interested in a bundle of fun and acceptance. Next came the recruitment of parents to help with the High Sierra Lacrosse League's logistics, and also along with the help and support of Gardnerville Elementary School's willingness to support the cause, they provided field space for spring practices and league games. The support of Principal Mr. Shannon Brown and Head Secretary Sherry Karasich was the ultimate support that led to the inaugural lacrosse experience for anyone in Carson Valley for high school girls under the High Sierra Lacrosse League spring 2017 season. 2 years later, in 2019, 2.5, the nonprofit Carson Valley Youth Lacrosse Organization began. We have been providing youth lacrosse league play for both boys and girls and across all of your Douglas County's youth. We have also spent our time providing assistance to PE teachers here in the district, K through 12, to implement USA Lacrosse PE curriculum in their PE units. Since COVID, high school and middle school age girls have kept girls alive through the outside participation in fall tournament opportunities. Because in fall opportunities, we can play not 10v or 12v12, we can play 7v7. The lacrosse struggle has been real for female athletes here in Carson Valley, but their student-built beginnings in 2016, having consistent parent coaches and community members, along with High Sierra Lacrosse unconditional support, Lacrosse in Douglas County has developed seamless programs for both boys and girls. Let's see. Well, I'm just going to jump to, we currently still hold on to a campus club advisor, Shelby Young. In the past, Stormy Harold has also been the girls lacrosse DHS club advisor. To date, considering the girls' game of lacrosse, there have been 8 Carson Valley lacrosse coaches, with 5 still currently certified under both USA and the National Federation of High School Schools national platforms. In addition, 9 girls varsity lacrosse athletes have moved on to play lacrosse. Respectfully, may I name those students?
You can name the students.
2017, Kat Wolstein, University of Nevada, Reno, IWLCA Division I. 2018, Ashley Edwards, UNR, IWLCA Division I. 2018, G. Benton, Grand Canyon University, Phoenix, NCAA Division II. 2019, Carly Howe, University of Nevada, Reno, IWLCA Division I. 2019, Fallon Rose, Wilson College, Pennsylvania, NCAA D2. 2019, Audrey Hansen, Reinhardt University, Georgia, NAIA. 2021, Ariel Rose, Eastern Oregon University, NCAA Division III. And 2024, Rachel Rose, Lake Erie College, Ohio, NCAA D2.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Laura, and I'm a parent of a freshman boy at Douglas High School who wanted to be here today, but he had prior commitments with marching band. Our family moved to this community a couple years ago, and we absolutely love being here. One of the things that made us feel so connected to this community has been the opportunity to participate in lacrosse through Carson Valley Youth Lacrosse. This year, however, my son has officially aged out of the local youth lacrosse opportunities. The nearest league available to him is now in Reno. And for our family, along with most of the families in this valley, traveling to Reno on a regular basis is simply not a realistic option. For more than a year, we have been waiting to find out whether Douglas County School District will officially implement lacrosse at the high school level. I believe the opportunity is here. We have tremendous community support and established a local lacrosse organization. Sorry, not as public speaker. and established local lacrosse organizations, families who are eager to participate, and a growing number of students who want the opportunity to play the sport at Douglas High School. The groundwork has also been underway for some time. The district has had a solid 2 years of congressional planning, a year of specific guidance from the Nevada Interscholastic Athletic Association, and support from High Sierra Lacrosse League to help prepare for a decision regarding high school lacrosse. So tonight I'm asking the district a very straightforward question. If the district is not prepared to commit to implementing lacrosse for this school year, what is a plan to financially and practically prepare for its implementation in the near future? Our families understand that starting a new high school sport requires planning, funding, coaches, facilities, equipment, and other resources. What we are asking for is a clear path forward. If the answer is not this year, then we would like to know what needs to happen for the answer to become a yes. And what is the timeline for making that happen? Our students deserve opportunities to participate in sports that they are passionate about. And lacrosse has already demonstrated that it has a strong foundation and community support. I hope the district will recognize this opportunity and work with the community to finally bring lacrosse to Douglas High School. Thank you for your time and for considering this request. We look forward to hearing the answers.
Thank you.
Beth Bunch. The one thing I heard when they first started their presentation was that if you don't sanction if it's not sanctioned here in Douglas County, that the lacrosse players won't have any games this spring. So my question is I don't know how many teams there are in lacrosse. I don't know if they're all assuming that all the players that play lacrosse are funneling into the high school system. That I don't know the numbers. So if they're all playing, if they're not all making the high school team, does that mean there's no teams at all? Because I know in some sports there's, players that don't try out for the high school team, and there's plenty of players in the season to play. I come from the volleyball side, and so they say that there's recruitment at the high school level, which is good. But I know in volleyball, there hasn't been any recruitment out of high schools for 30 years, at least. And the recruitment is at the more national qualifiers, the qualifying tournaments, the big ones, and the junior nationals. That's where the qualifying happens. Not qualifying. That's where you start seeing the recruiters, is at that level. You do not see them at the high school level. Lacrosse is probably different, but as I was saying, they were saying if you don't sanction it, then they're not playing. I just, that's kind of an emotional little blackmail, maybe. So I'm not sure how many players there are, and that was my one concern. And just to even date myself, I played in Nevada the second year that volleyball was sanctioned. It was really bad back then. So anyway, that was my input. Otherwise, they brought up the other things was, again, if we don't sanction it, they're not playing at all. I would really question that. I'm not really sure on the numbers of players versus high school players that make the team.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Nyland. I didn't have anything prepared today, but just wanted to speak to you about what lacrosse means to my family. My oldest son, graduated a couple of years ago. He was the second player out of Douglas County to be recruited to play on a college lacrosse team. He went to Ohio and played for a year there on a Division III team and absolutely loved it. It was one thing that kept him going through times when COVID was hitting and there wasn't much to do. My daughter is Marley Nyland, the one that Coach Joel so nicely laid out some boys. And I would say, just to advocate for her, girls lacrosse and boys lacrosse are completely different sports, completely different. She played girls lacrosse and she prefers boys lacrosse because she likes the contact and she likes the camaraderie that comes with the boys team versus the girls teams. I would say that my youngest son, Aaron, is a freshman this year, and he is dying to play. He has been playing lacrosse as long as his brother and sister have been playing, and is a fantastic player, if I do say so. He's one of the few kids that you'll see out there that can play both left-handed and right-handed. My wife has been actively involved in helping our kids get to practices and games, as well as keeping score and statistics on the sideline. The last couple of years myself, I've been an assistant coach with the Douglas lacrosse team, helping out with strength and conditioning and learning as I learn the sport more, helping the kids with fundamental skills. And last year, I stepped up even a little bit more to help out on the offensive side. One of our other coaches, Coach Don, is here as well. Coach Joel, none of us got paid last year. We didn't care. We were told there was a stipend, and we all asked that it goes back to the team so the kids that needed scholarship money could have it. That's how dedicated my family has been to this sport. And I have been blessed with the opportunity to work with some amazing kids. And to the point of who tried out and who didn't, there was no kid turned away. If you wanted to play, you showed up, we helped you learn the sport, and we got you out there and played. There were no tryouts other than to differentiate whether someone could play on varsity or the JV level. And 2 years ago, we had swing players that went JV and varsity in order to help field teams. I know that recruitment is something that would be greatly helped in this sport if it were a sanctioned sport within the school to get more advertisement out there for other players to come and join. And I know that in other areas of the country, specifically in San Diego, where my family's from, the football players love playing lacrosse in the springtime because they get the contact as well as the cardio and the strength and conditioning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adrian Sawyer for the record, parent of 2 DCSD students. When I reviewed this, there was no attachments, so I could only go off of the agenda description. And what I see is that it was going to cost $5,964 and that it was going to be covered under an unused stipend. So I would really highly, so this whole conversation, I was like, oh, it's covered. I don't need to look at the attachments because it says the fiscal impact and that the budget is covered. So I'd really recommend that the attachments and whatever fiscal information you're going to have in your agenda description match, because I thought it was covered. So thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sasha Wagner. I am DCSD employee, and I have a junior. No, he's a senior now. He plays lacrosse, and a freshman. We have been paying. I would rather we sanction the sport and maybe do 1 year, 2 years of pay to play than make these kids not play this year. That way we can fix our budget, prepare ahead, plan ahead of time to get it going. Lacrosse was the last sport that my son played with his father before his father passed away his freshman year. I would hate for him to not be able to finish out school playing a sport that he loved to share with his dad. I think you're going to do a huge disservice to these boys if you take it away. That's all.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Your microphone is not on.
Let me try that
So
again.
start over again.
Christina Brown.
Will you restart her time? Thank you.
I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but the question was raised if our students aren't, if Douglas doesn't sanction this, if our students would be able to play this season. And I can say that I don't see any arena that my son will be able to play in the spring if we don't sanction it this year. He's been very dedicated and very excited about his opportunities within lacrosse. And the community that he's been a part of, and it would just be so hard for him to lose out on a senior season. In addition, there's a lot of talk about kids going on to play at the college level, and that's exciting. When my phone buzzes and I see that a college has looked at my son's profile, or they reach out and they say they want to talk to us, or they have things to say to him, that's really exciting. But as a 2-decade-plus educator, I'm also very conscious of just the community that he has on the team that he plays in high school. It's exciting to think about the future, but it's also really important to think about the present and what these kids have going for them right now.
Thank you.
Is it on?
It's on.
All right, I wasn't going to talk either. My name's Don Dixon. I was a varsity, or not varsity, it's a JV coach last year with John and Joe. I wasn't going to speak tonight either. I played lacrosse at the University of Utah for 3 years back in the 70s because I'm old. And it meant a lot to me and changing my life. What I wanted to say, though, was I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent, but I promise I'll make a point. I also, in the community, I ran a aviation program at the airport for 11 years where we built a full-scale airplane at the airport. We're trying to sell it right now so we can reseed that program and get it going again. My point is, let's not underestimate the people in this community. That program ran by total donations, the airport donations and business donations. I think if we go shake a few trees in this community, we can find enough money to fund this program easily. So please give everybody a chance to go talk to some businesses and see if we can't come up with some other funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And Don, I had no idea you played in college. That's exciting. Very cool. Yeah. You know, those hickory sticks are pretty great. Yeah. Yeah. Any further public comment? All right. At this time, we will close. Oh, we have 2 online. Okay. Sorry. I was looking here and not paying attention.
Go ahead, Braden.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Awesome. Hi, my name's Braden Worthington, for the record. First and foremost, I just want to start off by saying good evening, members of the board, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm just here to strongly support the sanctioning of lacrosse in Douglas County. Lacrosse has been established in our community at the boys level since 2017. And over the past several years, this program has continued to grow, develop, and prove that it really belongs here. I've had the privilege of coaching this team, and I've personally watched it grow into a program with more than 40 student athletes, 40 plus young people who have found a place to compete, build friendships, challenge themselves, and be part of something bigger than themselves. I also want to share that I was part of the original team when this program first started. My own experience as a player was incredibly meaningful. It kept me engaged in school, gave me a sense of purpose, and provided me a direction during a very important time in my life. Through lacrosse, I was able and given the opportunity to continue my athletic career at the Division II NCAA level in college. An opportunity that would not have been possible without this program. And just to speak a little bit on, people have been saying about, clubs is where you get recruited, this, that, and the other. I did not participate in any other clubs besides the Douglas Lacrosse Club. So that opportunity for me to play in college wouldn't have happened without Douglas Lacrosse, and furthermore for future kids without the sanctioning of lacrosse. That said, that success that we've recently had is something our community should be very proud of. We have seen tremendous growth, not only in participation, but in the level of competition and accomplishments of our athletes. That success doesn't happen by accident. It comes from students putting in work, coaches investing their time, families supporting their kids, and a community believing in the program. But the most important part of lacrosse isn't the wins. It's what happens away from the scoreboard. For many students, athletics provide motivation to stay engaged in school and give them an opportunity to be something positive. Being part of a team teaches them accountability, discipline, responsibility, teamwork, and how to handle both success and adversity. It gives students a social outlet and a group of peers that they can rely on. For some kids, having that team and that community can make an enormous difference in their high school experience. We have more than 40 young students choosing to spend their time being active, competing, supporting their teammates, and representing Douglas County. That is something worth investing in. Sanctioning lacrosse would recognize the work that has already been put into building this program since 2017 and the girls program since 2016. It would give our student athletes the same opportunity for recognition, support, and legitimacy that other high school sports receive. We aren't asking you to sanction an unproven idea. You're being asked to recognize a program that has already demonstrated its value, its staying power, and its ability to serve the students of Douglas County. Our athletes deserve the opportunity to officially represent their schools.
Braden, your time is up. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate all your service to our kids.
Josh, go ahead.
Hi, this is Joshua Lang. I'm a teacher and parent in the district. I've had three of my boys have been part of the Douglas lacrosse, and it's made a big impact in their life. Everybody has said a lot of really positive things. I don't want to waste a bunch of time continuing to say the same thing, but I also want to mention to the board members that you have another option tonight. You can approve this item tonight and make it contingent on funding being available. So that is an option that you guys could do. Instead of putting it off for a month, you can approve it contingent on funding, which would allow you to not be breaking the law. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Are we on? Mike Reck, Principal, Douglas High School. For the record, I just want to state that Mr. Sanger and I are in full support. We completely understand all the dynamics involved and why we would have to make sure the funding is there in a month before we move forward. But we believe in all the opportunities that all of our programs, right? Not just sports, but clubs and co-curriculars and the benefits they provide for students. And we wouldn't want to be the only comprehensive public high school in the North in the 5A not doing this for our students. So I agree that I think we can find a way working together. On that note, I think there's going to be a question, maybe you can provide clarification on where those donations should go. Is it the district going to hold the funds, or the process if we don't get where we need to get, and how people would have that money returned? But I think that's going to be a big push, and it was similarly stated. I know that our community makes things happen for students all the time, so we are really confident that this is something that can happen and will be great for students.
Thank you, Mr. Rex. Any further public comment? Yes, please. We always want to hear from students. It's why we're all sitting here.
I'm Emmett Sibring. I've been playing lacrosse for 2 years. This will be my third season if it gets sanctioned. One big thing that I want to touch on is of course, the friends and the family part of being a part of this sport is really touching, and the ability for us to keep playing it. Because I remember you were saying about the clubs, if this doesn't get sanctioned, you have opportunities to go out of state or other clubs and stuff. And also you were stating before about how if it does get sanctioned, like the pay to play thing, of course, that's like the last option we want. Like how that would kind of like segregate the like people in poor financial positions. If it doesn't get sanctioned and you can't do that, like pay to play thing is the last option, which like we don't want at all. Like if we couldn't, if it doesn't get sanctioned and we can't do that, then the next option would like even further separate students and players from being able to play a sport, because any other club team, rather, I know Bear is in like a Sacramento team right now. That's like one of the only like ones he could go to that's close. I think there's a Reno team, I'm not sure. But I know that's like a lot more expensive than anything we've had to pay like for the club, for High Sierra Lacrosse or anything else. And I feel like even like what Don was saying, or him like getting donations from others, like the people that want to play it, like will find a way to fundraise or pay for it or do anything just to play it. Like I'd rather do that than just not be able to play it, especially like my senior year. But yeah.
Thank you very much. Any more online? Any further public comment from our audience? All right, then at this time, we will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Ms. Miller?
So I have a question. In here, it talks about unused stipends. Is that part of this number that we're looking at to get to with this 12,000 that we're trying to reach?
I'll defer to Terry Willoughby. She did a review of our unused stipends.
I'm not confident that that entire 15,000 is unused, but I will bring that number back as part of the analysis.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Knighting?
Do other sanctioned sports at the high school cover their annual cost through gate or whatever else they do?
Yeah, that question is better suited for Athletic Director Sanger. We'll have him come back up.
All right. So we do have, we don't offer, we have gate for some of our sports, not all of them. Football, volleyball, soccer in the fall, wrestling for their league meets. So there's usually they have about 1 or 2 a year. We'll have a gate, basketball. And then in the spring, so far, we haven't. Our softball field, if you've been back there, it's wide open. You can get in, and there's no way to really charge a gate, neither is baseball. So with our gate fees, it goes to the activity account for athletics, and that's what we use to usually fund all the other sports throughout the year. So
would it be fair to say if this was sanctioned, it would be a part of that athletic fund that already exists?
yes, it would. I would have to, if you want. Yes.
And that being said, the ongoing funding piece that the Department of Taxation is looking for, this would be funded. I don't know if it would have a gate or not, but it would be funded in the same way all the sanctioned sports at Douglas High School were funded.
Correct. And I'm really glad you asked, because I was just up here for a public comment and then went back and sat down, and I thought I meant to say that. Why didn't I share that? And it goes to what Marcus was asking earlier on like the overnight and out of state trips. So I'm the person that monitors every activity account. And by that, I mean the football account, the baseball account, the Alpine Club account, whatever it may be at Douglas High. And there are many, because we have tons of programs and co-curriculars. And when I get that Exhibit H, I don't sign it if they don't have the money to go on those things. And as we're looking at the list that was created, some of those things are district office expenditures, but a lot of the recurring cost and equipment replacement and things like that would come from the cumulative gate fees of athletics at Douglas High, or the program itself that really drives it. And I've asked all of our coaches to talk about what are the goals of the program, how are we taking input from parents, and then how are we going to fundraise to make those things happen. And of course, not every program decides to go play a game in Las Vegas, but when they do, there's a dedicated, deliberate fundraising plan to make that happen. And it's the motivation of students and families and community that put a lot of that together based on the goals of the program to fundraise and make those things happen. Athletics, I think, provides like a uniform rotation every 4 years, but some programs say we want them every 2 years, and we'll we'll do the fundraising to make those things happen.
And so is our activity fund healthy, and could it, and maybe this is something you can't answer tonight, could it support another sport?
Well, certainly boys lacrosse and potentially girls lacrosse will have its own activity account. Then they will fundraise and have that. The general athletics would be a little bit of a stretch. We try to keep a healthy cushion. For example, this year we have to replace, and we just spent to replace a pole vault mat for track, and which is nearly $20,000. Okay. But we plan for those things when we know they're happening. When we've looked at the last year's accounting, and all the money that came into the athletics account minus everything that went out, we're only about plus 7,000. And really in an activity account, that's how it should be. You raise the students' families' gate, you raise the funds, you spend the funds in a secular fashion, right? So I guess it would be hard to say depending on what that number is to absorb. But I'm really encouraged by the numbers that we saw tonight.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure that we realize there is already something in place for sanctioned sports to, on an annual basis, be able to operate.
Yes, I have to pay ref costs every year for football. I have to pay refs for soccer and volleyball. So there is an account that I'm using to, the district. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. The district uses to pay. Yes. Sorry. Let me repeat. The district uses in order to pay those things. We do have reoccurring costs in every one of our programs. And that's just something that we handle. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, we can clarify that if there's no more questions from the board.
So I did just a quick number of for the boys program of what reoccurring costs are going to be, because I know that was a question that we brought up, and obviously we're going to have a little bit more information. And I came up with about, on an average, 21,000. But what we're looking for is, and I know that we're trying to figure this out, is we have CLGF, it's an unbudgeted item, but if we have the funds in the activity funds, how do we balance that? Because we're saying it's unbudgeted, but yet we potentially have the funds in the activity funds that's constantly getting replenished. So I think we need some clarification.
And to piggyback on what she says, can we approve it with contingency that the money, so we can't do that?
I will get the legal, we have our attorney
Okay.
here, but
Yes.
I can read you what the Nevada Administrative Code says. It says, budget augmentation, which is a budget increase, is to define available resources and to specify filing requirements for budget augmentation or increase for governmental funds. Available resources are unappropriated ending balance, an opening balance which is larger than anticipated, revenues in excess of those budgeted, or revenues generated from previously unbudgeted sources. So you should receive the revenue before I would hate to have, because if you say you're going to get 50,000 and you don't get 50,000, where's the rest of it coming? It's coming from the general fund balance. As far as the question about activity funds, that would be that's a different bank account even than ours. So we would have to do a budget transfer or budget augmentation. So. The attorney.
Just a second, Susan. So, Mr. Alvarado, can you answer where would the community donate? How would that work?
They would write the checks out to Douglas County School District and appropriate it in the notes to La Crosse. And all checks or cash donations should be directed to Terry Willoughby.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen.
I was involved in athletics my whole life. I was a PE teacher. I was a coach. I was a college swimmer. My daughter was a scholarship college swimmer. As a coach, I always did fundraising. That's always something that's part of sports. And I don't think there's anyone here who doesn't want to have lacrosse. It's a great sport. You're all really enthusiastic about it. The lacrosse players are just really the nicest kids, like the swimmers. That's what we were. But in light of our situation, I think that we need to wait a month, or if we need 2 months to get all of the ducks in a row, know that we have all of the money before we dive in. I think for the sake of the students, the staff, and the district, I think we have to do that. So we have to do it in the right order, make sure the money's there, and then we can go for it. If we don't do it that way, I think we're going to all lose. So hopefully it'll all work out.
Can I say something? Okay. I tend to agree with what has been said by board members. I was involved in lacrosse when it first started, so to see that it has grown to the degree that it has grown makes my mom heart really proud and happy, because my boys still play lacrosse and they're grown and moved on, and my son has come back and he's coached, and I know he will do it again when he returns. So, but I do agree with what everyone has said, that if we do this before we have secured the finances, I think the CLGF is going to be breathing down our necks, and it will be a lose for all of our students. And I don't think that's what we want. It's not what I want. So, Mr. Zinke?
Yeah, so I've made a little list here. You are all awesome. You clearly care, and you have clearly put forth the effort. Kudos to you on all of that. I think what we need now, because we do have some new information, we need to know what the activities account balance is and how that is usually, let's say, manipulated, for lack of a better word, for all the activities, and the impact that lacrosse will have on said account. We need to see what the recurring cost is, and not a guesstimate. It's all still going to be, yes, an estimate of some sort, but a more substantial number that we can trust a lot better. And maybe Miss Willoughby can help with that still. I would expect her to do so. We need to see that you have the boosters money and the grant money, and hopefully some donations money. And along those lines, I'm willing to pledge $1,000 from Stilts Tile for that as well. So bring those back, and let's get lacrosse going. But we just have to have the substance so that we're not in trouble, so that we're not saying on one side, look at how much money we're saving, and then on the other side, spending a bunch of it. So 1 month, you guys have waited this long. Shake the trees, as the gentleman said. Shake them fast and hard, and get your money, please.
If I may, I propose a motion, but before I do, I want to make a comment that I think there's nobody in this room that doesn't agree that we need to sanction lacrosse. With that said, that's the what. We need to deal with the how. And this is the part of the due diligence that Mr. Zinke has been referencing. With that said, I would like to propose that the board postpone any decision-making regarding the proposed unbudgeted expense until dedicated new revenue sources or donations are fully secured. Additionally, the board needs assurances the proposed initiative is entirely budget neutral, preventing any strain on existing operational reserves and the general fund.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Brady and a second by Ms. Jansen. Any further questions or comments from the board? All right, did you have it?
I did. Do we have to make a motion, or can we just not move forward and then just bring it back as a future agenda item?
You don't have to take action. but-
Okay, I'm sorry.
Microphone.
I
That's okay.
want to make
You'll
sure
get it
that,
right about the time
that we're
you're
doing
you're
this
done.
the right way. I don't want us to have an issue.
Referencing the administration's recommended motion, I think we need to send a message to the Department of Taxation and the CLGF that we're serious about taking our fiscal watch seriously. I think it needs to be on the record.
Thank you. I just, like I said, I wanted to make sure that we did it right.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Hopefully we will see you all back here next month. Thank you so much for coming and for taking the time to share your thoughts with us. We appreciate it. And at that, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. All right, we are back from recess. We are going to jump around just a little bit. We're going to jump to number 8 for a quick presentation. I'm assured it will be very brief for our annual health report. Really fast before you begin. Did everyone have a chance to look it over? The presentation? Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to go like slide by slide.
I'll do summary points for sure. I was going to get up here and make a joke and say, so my presentation is just a little longer than the lacrosse one. I can't make that joke now that you spoiled it for me, Yvonne.
I'm so sorry.
So basically last year, just with our kind of all-time low enrollment, we did see less children, but we still saw 32,000 in our health offices. We gave a little less medication because of that. We also had a really warm winter. We had a really, really, really mellow respiratory illness season in our schools. By and large, across the country, it was actually pretty bad, but it was not so bad in Nevada, maybe because of the weather. We don't really know. Also, we have less kids, so we gave less medications. We did increase our springtime medications, and that probably was because we had a big outbreak of norovirus in our schools. 5 of our elementary schools went above the 10% rate, so we had to do reports to the state epidemiology team that we had some outbreaks in our schools. That brought up a little bit of more information for the parents. One thing we really did increase this year is our education to both our students as well as our parents. And that just goes but without saying that, that we make that as a goal every single year, because we know that if we're not doing our piece of educating everybody when they come to our offices or when they leave, or our parents about when to keep your child home and exclude them or when to bring them to school, general health tips in general for just keeping kids healthy. We know that if they don't come to school and they're not healthy, they're not really gaining their academic success. So our education really does actually, it keeps down our numbers in our health offices, but it also promotes these kids for being in school and being healthy to learn. And then another thing I'm really pleased to report is this last year was our first year that every single one of our schools, including Douglas High, had a free dentist come in. She's amazing. She's grant funded through federal grants as well as small state grants. And she came in and she did free screenings as well as free basic dental treatments to all of our students this year. So that was a huge accomplishment. And then just in closing, I'm just so proud of our team. Everybody works so hard, and, school nursing, there's only one of us in every single school. So we're really important, and we're very small, but we are, we're seeing more and more kids with mental health issues coming to see us when the counselor offices are a little bit more packed. And then we're seeing, more and more kids with high acuity things happening. We attended more IEPs and 504s, which only the RNs can do. Our health aides can't attend those meetings, nor can they write care plans. So having those people in our schools is so important. And I'm just so proud of the work that they do every single year. So do we have any questions?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? I think you are off the hook.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and for your time. We appreciate it. And for all your hard work. Thank you. All right. We will jump back to hold on. I got to get to the right number. I think it's number 6. Wrestling. All right, Mr. Singer. Thank you for your time this evening, and take it away.
All right, this presentation is going to be just a little shorter. All right, so girls wrestling. So the NIA was busy over the last year or so. They've sanctioned a few sports. They almost sanctioned another one, and then they kind of held off for a little bit. So that's why you're seeing me. So thank you for allowing me to speak again about another sport sanctioned by the NIAA. Girls wrestling is officially being recognized as its own varsity athletic program by the NIAA, and I'm asking for the board's consideration to recognize wrestling as an official sport at Douglas High School. Wrestling has been an open sport where boys and girls could participate together depending on their weight class. Starting in 2020, the NIAA began providing a separate girls wrestling championship, and then in the winter of 2022-2023, the NIAA established a dedicated girls division and their own regional and state championship. Over the last few years, Douglas High School girls wrestling has been very successful. Every time I come and talk about them or come talk about athletic program, we get to highlight the girls wrestling program. And they've been very competitive within the Northern Nevada, with multiple girls winning individual regional championships, qualifying for state. And then we've also had many state finishers, with 3 just last year. Since girls wrestling has been functioning as like an informal extension of the boys team over the last 3 years, sanctioning girls wrestling will provide Douglas High School the opportunity to formally have a girls team with a dedicated girls coach. Our girls team they've been already going to their own tournaments, qualifying for regionals as well as state over the last 3 years. So the only change I really see making this for the district is adding an additional stipend for the wrestling program dedicated to girls wrestling. The facility usage would remain the same, as both programs would probably wrestle at the same time in the same location like they have been doing over the last few years. With the size of our girls program, we've been around 10 to 13, so that we'd still have that ability to practice in one area. The amount of travel will remain the same because they'll still be going to the same tournaments. They'll just now be a girls dedicated division, which there already has been over the last couple of years. They're just now officially recognizing it. As well as the outside costs would remain the same since we are not starting a girls program from scratch. We've basically been running one for the last 3 years with officially making it a sanctioned sport this year. So thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak, and I believe that's about it for me.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. Ms. Miller?
So obviously, as with our last presentation, there's talk about unused stipends that's currently budgeted and that we would be using that for this. Is that available? Because I know we asked before and we were unsure.
This amount is available. I'm certain of that.
Okay.
So I have a question. You have a coach currently that has obviously coached the girls also, right?
Yeah, so I can go into a little bit detail of our coaching staff. So we currently have a varsity and a JV program at Douglas High School. We have 2 stipends for that, a head coach and an assistant coach. In order to maintain the girls program, because that sometimes they would be going different locations and so on and so forth, we split our stipend of the JV program. So one of our coaches that has half that stipend is the JV coach, and the other coach that had that half stipend has been basically our girls coach, but they were splitting a stipend in order to do that. This is just, since we're now officially going to recognize girls wrestling, is a request to see that and see the girls program grow, not just as an extension of wrestling, but as their own program.
So to be your own program, do you have to have a stipend?
It's a great question. I wouldn't know on that one. It's going to be more on the district and the county to be able to do that. We have our policies in place where, in order to travel on the bus, you need to have a stipend coach available. So if we have that ability to where we need to go to a girls tournament and the JV have their own tournament and the wrestling, we would struggle a little bit with that. We've been making it work with the split stipend with that kind of thing, but it hasn't truly been recognized as a sport. So now we have boys wrestling, girls wrestling, and we'd have to offer it. It's the same concept as with lacrosse. If we offer girls wrestling, we have that ability for the girls to then just stay focused on the girls side. If there is no girls wrestling, they would be able to wrestle boys, but they would be with the boys all year. They wouldn't be able to, qualify for the regional and that kind of stuff. They would be on the boys side of things now that they have sanctioned it.
Mr. Sanger, if you don't mind, board, I'd like to ask a question. So for cross country track, is there one head coach that oversees both boys and girls programs, or is there 2 head coaches?
So for cross country, we have a girls head coach and a boys head coach. For track, we have the same. And I'm trying to think if we have it. Tennis, we're different. Boys tennis and girls tennis, we have 2 separate coaches. Same thing with soccer. But cross country and track are very similar to wrestling because they tend to all go to the same place. So our track teams, they will go, but we still have the head boys and the head girls coach stipend.
For the record, the stipend's not enough. These coaches put in crazy hours on their own time as the girls golf coach for several years and helping with the boys. That I can promise you this is not enough for the work they put in. I just wanted an answer. Anyway, thank you.
I have a question, and this may be off topic, but when we're obviously talking about coaches and girls sports versus boys sports, and we're talking about like cross country, and you have a boys cross country head coach and then you have a girls cross country head coach, but we don't have that across the entire district. I think we'll have one cross country, like obviously Wattel's only 80 high school students, but they have one cross country coach that oversees both middle school and high school just because of the way that they're facilitated. So do we stipend enough for every sport to have their own coach, whether they're boys or girls? I guess we need to do a deeper dive eventually. Like, again, this is a little off topic, but we are talking about stipends, but maybe we need to look at how our stipends are done across the entire district for all of our athletics programs.
Yeah, so that's a negotiated item within our collective bargaining agreement. It is a topic of discussion that DCPA would like to put together a work group with Mrs. Dwyer to look at our stipends, our allocations, and the compensation associated with it. So more information will be shared in the future.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're doing our students justice and making sure that they're getting the coaching that we know that they deserve to. So thank you.
So just so I understand, anyway, this is not currently budgeted. Is that correct?
If Terry will be for the record, if there's an additional stipend, there is stipends budgeted, so it would be within there. So there's a budget for stipends. There's some stipends that won't be used. Those stipends will be transferred over to Douglas High School to cover the wrestling.
How do we know they won't be used? Like what sport is not using a stipend? I guess that's what
$15,000 budgeted at Whitell High School that they don't use all 15,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so this year we didn't have a JV softball program, and in order to field the team, we had a bigger team, varsity team then, so we used half of the JV stipend in order to have a bigger team with, be able to still, we had hired coaches, so we kind of just split that stipend, and we didn't use all of the JV softball. We didn't use any of the JV head coach stipend.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jansen.
Yeah, I guess this is for Mrs. Willoughby. I want to ask the same question. Can we afford to have this sport without the state being unhappy with us spending the money? Are we okay to do that?
Terry Willoughby for the record. The cost for this sport is within the existing budget. You're not being asked to increase for a new program. So we can cover it within the existing budget by doing transfers.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question. So we have $15,000 that's unused at one school. They're asking for about $3,000, which brings it down to 12, which is kind of what lacrosse was asking for. So I don't understand why we didn't then be able to utilize that.
Because it's budgeted for stipends, and lacrosse is not just the stipend, it's all of the other cost. The stipend of lacrosse is very
It's
minimal.
different things. So
you have the transportation and you have all the other equipment and the stipends. So the $15,000 is just stipends. So we're pulling just under 3,000 potentially for wrestling. That still leaves $12,000 in stipends, but that's all we can use it for is stipends.
well, I don't know that all 12,000 is not going to be used. I will bring that as part of the overall lacrosse projection that I bring back next month.
Okay.
So the stipend is all the girls wrestling team needs. This is it. Like, we're not going to see anything surprise pop up, equipment, mats.
So if that would be the case, it would be handled, since wrestling has currently been a sport at our school, it'd be handled within either the wrestling program. They fundraise every year, and that's why we're doing it this way it's not going to be its own program having to suffer on its own. The wrestling program that's been fundraising for the many years prior, that it's going to keep that girls wrestling program going. So everything's going to be site-based. It won't be anything on the district except for that extra stipend request is basically what we're saying.
Go for it.
Sorry, I have one more question. I just want to make sure that by pulling funds from stipends from one high school to another, that we're not hurting another high school program that potentially may need that. Does that make sense? I don't want Watell to suffer because now we're going to tell them, sorry, we used your stipends at another school.
What I can share with you is we went through the budget reduction process and I was meeting with Sue Estes, our Director of Business Services. We routinely annually had $38,000 of unused stipends at Watell. When she was doing the budget for May approval for the board, she did reduce some of those stipends already. But like I said, annually there was $38,000.
So it's just transferring it on paper from one school to another school.
That's correct. It's all within the general fund, so it's allowable to be a transfer, but you will still see that transfer on a future report.
Okay. So we have the money. We don't have to come up with any money.
That's correct.
Okay. I just don't want to get in trouble. I don't want a misdemeanor on my record. And we don't want to hurt another school sport. But if they have consistently not used it, it won't be hurting them. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. Then we'll go to public comment. Thank you, Mr. Sanger. We will open public comment for agenda item number 6. Do we have any online? Okay, seeing as we have no public comment, we will close public comment at this time. Bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
I'd like to make a motion to sanction girls wrestling at designated DCSD schools.
Are you going to read the rest of the motion?
Well, for the rest of the motion says for discussion and possible action.
Well, no, at the bottom down there, recommended motion.
You see.
I just want to make sure we're detailed in our motion making.
Right here, the take action. The board may take action to approve, modify, or delay the official say. Oh, I don't have that on mine. Okay. I move to approve the sanctioning of girls wrestling as an official spring varsity sport at designated DCSD schools effective for the 26-27 school year and authorize district administration to make adjustments to stipend allocations to ensure this is a budget neutral decision.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Jansen and a second by Mr. Brady. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Agenda item number 7. Mr. Alvarado, Board Policy 546.
Okay, trustees. So SB 444 was passed in the last legislative cycle, which that required us to do an update and a review of our policies for cell phones. Our policy 546 with our progressive discipline plan did make us compliant. However, we needed to modernize the policy to address smartwatches, new smart glasses like the Meta glasses, because those are becoming prevalent within our schools. So this policy was drafted at the minimum legal statute requirements by Mr. Keith Catola. I then had a collaborative meeting with all of our site administrators to discuss practical application, their concerns, and then we revised this policy for board consideration tonight. So I'm not going to review the entire policy unless you'd like me to, but if you have any questions or if you have directions to change this policy and bring it back for a second reading, you're welcome to do that. This is for discussion and possible action. We are allowed to approve revisions through one action. However, we've been bringing it twice just for public transparency. I can tell you our school site administrators are anxiously waiting approval for this so it can be implemented into our student handbooks and then sent out to families.
Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Knighting?
Under number 3 on the policy, it states that elementary and middle school students may not use their electronic communication device during school nutrition. Anyway, But then it says high school students can use it while traveling on district buses. What about the elementary, middle school? It doesn't specifically address whether they can or can't.
Yeah, so for that situation, I'd like to seek board direction on that. But at the younger age, they're not as responsible as the older age students, right? So this is kind of what's referred to as a graduated responsibility policy, where we're restricting usage and access at the lower levels. But once they get into the high school level, we do allow more access.
And I understand that. I'm not saying that they should use it during the school. I'm just saying that it doesn't say whether or not elementary, middle school can use it on the bus or not.
Would you like it to state that, or?
Well, I think if we're going to have a policy, it needs to say whether or not that's okay.
That was going to be something I brought up as well, because my kids have gone on, they go to Fallon for honor choir or honor band. That's an hour and a half drive. They're allowed to use their cell phones in middle school for the trip, but then once they're there, they're present and they're not on their device. So personally, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that maybe we need to.
Yeah, so I do want to explain the differences in transportation. We have daily transportation to school, and then we have field trips like you're describing.
Right.
In a field trip, we would have a chaperone on the bus that can help with supervision. On a day-to-day transportation from home to school, we typically have just a bus driver. And so to address the usage and those types of things, or if a kid's not doing something appropriately with their device, a bus driver has to pull over, then address the kid, and then get back onto their route.
So this would be saying that middle school students can't use the phone on the bus, but high school students can. They're on the bus together.
Good point.
So how on earth is a bus driver who should be paying attention to the road gonna know which student can and which student can't? And so I don't know that restricting middle school to and from school when they're on their device. I mean, my daughter historically listens to music on the bus because she doesn't want to hear all the profanity that's going on in the back of the bus. So I don't want her to be restricted. I mean, she's in high school now, so it's not a big deal, but I don't want to take that away from other students.
So as a board, would you like to restrict only elementary? And then
that would make more sense.
So I was going to kind of piggyback on that. You have middle school students cannot use it during their school day, but what about Aspire and Whitell? You have a combined campus, either 6 through 12 or 7 through 12. So then you're going to tell your high school students, yes, you can use your cell phone on nutrition and lunch breaks, but then you're going to tell your 6th, 7th, 8th graders, no, you can't. I think once you hit 6th grade, we're starting to want them to start taking more ownership. They're not adults. Obviously even our high school students aren't adults, but we want them to start taking ownership of themselves. And, you're in charge of, making sure you get to school on time, take the bus, make your lunch, those kinds of things. I think that lumping them together, this gets a bit clunky because you have a couple campuses that are combined. And what Ms. Wagstaff said also, they're on the same bus. Obviously at Zephyr and Whitell, you're on the bus also with elementary, middle, and high school in the morning and in the afternoon. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting situation there too. Restricting elementary school students during the school day, definitely understand that one, but the middle school students on the bus, and then when you have combined bus route, I don't know about that part. Anybody else have any?
I also have a hard time with the whole in number 2, this excludes smartwatches. Kids are pretty intelligent in sending texts, and they can get on and they can do things from their watch that I could not do. And so I don't know that excluding a smartwatch from being turned off and stored out of sight during instructional time, I think it would be a good idea to include smartwatches.
Yeah, that was a topic of discussion with our site admin. They didn't see any issues with a smartwatch. People typically buy smartwatches for health reasons or to monitor themselves. And they felt that it was okay for students to wear smartwatches during.
So they're not having a problem, even in middle school or elementary. They're not
Correct.
having a problem with that.
Administrator says that's not a concern of theirs.
Okay. Well, that's good to know because that's not something I would have guessed. So,
Any other board opinions from those we haven't heard from regarding transportation, smartwatches,
those are my only concerns.
drugs? Michael?
Microphone, Susan.
Do you know, and I was just thinking, do you know if they could do Chat GPT or any kind of AI on smartwatches, like an Apple Watch? Because that wouldn't be good in school because then they could get the answers.
I would think they'd have to talk into it to
I don't know.
sort of.
Not familiar with the features of artificial intelligence apps on smartwatches, but that's something that we can have IT look into.
I guarantee you, if it's not happening now, it will be in a couple of years.
Can our IT guy give us any insight? Maybe I don't know. Okay, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Anything else?
I was just looking at my smartwatch to see if I could do that. It's not something I've ever done. I'm sure you can use the internet on it. I think there's also a degree that if the teachers say that it's not really of concern, but also if the teachers are paying attention, which all of ours do, they would see someone using it and stop them from doing so. It's very obvious if I'm sitting here 4 inches away because my sight isn't what it used to be.
We're getting old.
And so I don't think we have to worry about that. And I do like the distinction between elementary school and middle school. I certainly there are degrees. This kind of goes back to the dress code. There are degrees in which it matters, in which it changes from their age groups. I don't necessarily agree with just because they go to school together, they should be able to do it. And I give you, if it was K through 12, I certainly wouldn't want the kindergarten, first, second, third, whatever grade that we could argue about later, on a smart device just because they go to the same school that other kids can. And again, I give you teachers and their ability to stop such actions. So, at the high school, freshmen can't leave campus yet, but everyone else can. So there can be rules that are for different age groups. But I do like the distinction so far on the middle school versus elementary school. And the bus is certainly a good point. Maybe Zephyr Cove ends up, or Whittle, the Tahoe area ends up with a different set of rules. That's convoluted. We've seen that as well. But personally, I think anything that limits the use of smart devices at any time that they're supposed to be on their way or going to or at school is better for the younger kids to limit and more appropriate for older kids to allow them to do such.
I think sounds like we're all pretty much in agreement with that.
So what I'm hearing the board say is we want to restrict elementary on the bus, but we want to allow middle school on the bus, and allow high school on the bus. So then if the board wants, you'll take public comment, but if you want a motion to approve tonight, I would ask that you just add those conditions in your motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? All right, then we will open it up for public comment at this time.
Adrian Sawyer for the record, parent of 2 DCSD students. I support this policy. I'm really glad you're not doing pouches like Carson. I do think that kids do need to learn the responsibility of putting their phone away and having that. I just think it's better this way. I do have a question. The policy prohibits recording another person without consent, but it doesn't define what that consent looks like. I don't know if a minor can consent to being recorded. I mean, I don't know, just a question. Like if you have people on a bus, I know my kids when they're going to tennis, they'll be recording each other. What if the person behind them comes up and, I mean, I don't know. The consent thing, I think needs to be, because I don't think a minor can consent. Anyway, and then the agenda description refers to an updated administrative regulation that can be found under the informational items, but that isn't included. I am particularly interested in the definition of intruding into a person's physical solitude, because this wording doesn't appear in the board policy. So that, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any online? Okay. All right. Seeing as there is no further public comment, we will close it at this time and bring it back to the board for further discussion and questions and a motion.
Trustee Wagstaff, we did have a discussion regarding the Nevada one-party consent laws. I did reach out to Mr. Catola. He can share his guidance for the board and then also answer the question from our public commenter.
Sure. So, yeah, so it is illegal under Nevada law to record a conversation if there's not at least one person consenting. And it's also illegal to record someone under a circumstance where there's an expectation of privacy. I don't think these policies violate those laws necessarily, but if you want to add heightened requirements to address privacy, there's already recording is already banned in locker rooms and things like that. But if you want to add heightened requirements to protect students' privacy, you can kind of fashion those in a way that you see fit.
Just a question, would this also include like if you are on campus at the end of the day and
It's during school hours.
just during school hours? Okay.
I don't think we can ask for consent all over the place when it comes to recording. I mean, I've seen my daughter's phones for years and they are recording themselves and people are in the background, and you can't go around asking every student at the school whether they consent to being in your video. I think intent is pretty important in that regard. We're in a pretty slippery slope if we start requesting that kind of stuff. I think as presented, this is great. That verbiage is tough because if you're requesting consent now, the whole school has to have some sort of form of consent. Whereas I almost actually would go the other way and take that out of there. There's already rules and protections for the general populace when it comes to recording, right? I can record people in a public setting. I can't record them in a private setting most of the time. I think we take that part out actually and just defer to the general rule of law. It's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, with that item in the policy, it makes students subject to school discipline. With the item pulled out of the policy, they're not subject to school discipline. SB 444 also required that we put on here disciplinary action and a progressive discipline plan, and that's also stated within a board policy. Typically, that would be in an administrative regulation, but SB 44 requires it in the policy.
So like Ms. Sawyer said, what does that consent look like? So, it obviously, I don't want to say obviously, it doesn't seem to have been a problem up until this point. Now we're adding it in a policy, and I'm not sure how many students listen to our board meetings. Hopefully none, because this is boring, especially from their eyes. But, there are very unique situations now with these devices that any kid who's mad at any other kid could easily claim that he was recorded. And then there's an investigation and disciplinary action for the sake of being behind their friend in a video while they're recording.
And it can very easily turn into a he said, she said type situation
Correct.
of, well, they said they
understand it
could.
has to be in there for school discipline. Is there any way that there could be a maybe not in this policy, but just in one of our other policies, verbiage or literature that would make that wrong for the sake of school discipline? So I'll give you an example. When you go to purchase a firearm, you put a lot of different things on that sheet, and those are to see if you're lying about who you are, and then they get you for the lie. Something along those lines where it's not in this as a consent item or a request for such. I don't know.
I completely agree with the board sentiment around consent. How do you ensure somebody truly provided consent or did not provide consent? And that will always be a he said, she said situation And even if there's witness students, right, we would have to corroborate that, investigate it, have written statements. But Mr. Gatola, do you have any words of wisdom from the legal world?
Yeah, I mean, generally it's not illegal to record someone in a public environment. And there's no special law, as far as I'm aware, that that has a heightened requirement for children. So yeah, obviously, in a locker room, something like that, you can't record somebody. In a classroom, I don't think it would be illegal to for one student to take out their phone and start recording. Whether it's should be a disciplinary matter is sort of up to the board to decide.
Well, they're not supposed to have their phones out during instructional time, so maybe it's not even something that has to go in here. They can't have their phones out during instructional times, and the elementary middle school can't have their phones out at all during the day. So no phone, no recording.
So if a student breaks the rule in the classroom and takes out the phone and starts recording, they would definitely have administrative discipline, right?
Yes. That's
So
prescribed in the
that,
policy.
yeah, well, I like that because they're going, they're being defiant. So that makes sense.
Well, they would be disciplined because they got their phone out. I mean,
Right.
maybe we don't have
Exactly.
to go down this road where it gets really murky with all the consent, because they can't have their phone out during instructional time.
Exactly.
So they would be disciplined, but the administration would need to find out there was a secret recording, right? Because not every kid who pulls out their device is caught.
Right.
So again, I have to say maybe the punishment goes for the secrecy and the intent of the recording, not the lack of consent from the one being recorded. Something like that, which would be maybe in a different policy somewhere for intent to harm maybe, and that could be proved as such that it was intent to harm someone by the recording, and then it can be taken out of here for the sake of consent. I actually think that works really well.
I think it goes under
Just figured it out.
cyberbullying.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would fall under a cyberbullying policy and an intent to harm rather than this.
Yeah, the board's welcome to make a decision to remove that item from.
I would remove the consent portion, certainly. That's what I would request. For the sake of the ease of both the implementation of this and the expected punishment. And then finding the
And then
appropriate
make-
punishment would go under a different.
Make sure it's in our cyberbullying type
exactly.
policy.
Okay, to recap the board's direction so you can prepare for action. Actually, this is not an action item, so you don't have to. The direction that I'm taking and will bring back to you is we're going to restrict elementary usage on the bus. We are going to allow middle school usage on the bus. High school will stay the same. And then we're going to remove the consent portion of the policy.
Yes, I have one more question though. So we're creating this policy. We don't want our students to be using their phones. We want our students to put their phones away in their backpacks during the day. What if you have a teacher who utilizes like a pouch system? Is that still okay? Or is that, because I just want to make sure that our facilities, our administrators, if they they take this, but then they go a step further, there's no violations.
So what you're talking about is a more restrictive classroom policy. right?
Yes.
This is a baseline policy.
Yeah, as you walk in, for instance, my senior, this is how it's been since he's been a seventh grader. He walks into one classroom and he puts his phone into a basket, and that's where everybody's phone goes as soon as they walk into that classroom. I just want to make sure that the site admins or our teachers who want to be more restrictive are still allowed to do that.
So legal counsel, can they be more restrictive, or is this the
Yeah.
maximum?
You can definitely be more restrictive. The statute is pretty bare bones. It gives you a lot of discretion to kind of design these policies as you see fit.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure so that our teachers are protective with their classroom management underneath this. I don't want someone to say, well, that's not the board policy. The board policy says my student can keep their phone. But for classroom management, obviously, we want our teachers and our staff and our admin to have that fluidity to make sure that they're doing what's right for their classroom and they're allowed to still do that. So thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to,
Trustee
Fine.
Dickey.
well, you said we.
I know, I messed up here. It was, as we went back and forth. Yeah, I did. Sorry about that.
He changed his mind. No, it's for discussion. I mean, it does, well, yeah, it says for discussion. So we can't make a motion.
We went back and forth on whether it should be an action item or not, and we kept it a discussion item.
So next month you can make the motion, okay?
Let's.
All right, any further discussion on agenda item number 7? All right, then we will move on to agenda item number 9. The approval and possible approval of appraisal can't talk. Proposal and appointment of district appraiser. That is a lot to say. All right. Mr. Alvarado, could you
Yes, I'll go ahead and give some background on this.
Thank you.
So as you know, the board did take action to surplus the CC Manili property. And so this is a request for approval for the proposal from Ben Johnson. The dollar amount is within the proposal. I believe it's $7,500.
It is. It's on page 2.
Yep. And so we're just asking the board to approve it. We attempted to get 2 additional proposals so we could bring 3 to the board for consideration. Unfortunately, the state appointed one of the agencies we brought forward for the district office. And then the other local appraiser, we weren't within timeline. He needed 120 days to submit a proposal. So he wasn't interested in pursuing this. So we were only able to bring you 1.
A question I have about the appraisal process, maybe, I don't know. Do they actually come like both? Because we have the one that we choose and then the one that's state appointed. Do they both come and like walk the facility and like look at it, or do they just get on Google Maps and say, yep, that looks like about this much?
They actually visit the site. So we will have to schedule time with them at the school site. And then their appraisal reports will be shared at the same time at a future meeting. I don't know if they can make the 30-day timeline for the September meeting or if we would push it to the October meeting, but I would say expect the October meeting.
And they did that with when we did the appraisal for the district office.
Yes.
Both came and walked it, and okay. Just checking. So, all right, any questions? All right, then we will open it up for public comment for agenda item number 9, the approval of appraisal proposal and appointment of district appraiser. Say that 10 times fast.
Ready for a motion?
Seeing as there is no public comment, we will close it at this time. All right. Now I'm ready for a motion, Mr. Brady.
I move to appoint Ben Johnson as the board's designated appraiser pursuant to NRS 393.240 to determine the cash market value or rental value for the properties located at 1446 Muir Drive, Gardnerville, Nevada, parcels 1220-15-310-049 and parcel 1220-15-310-051 and 1220-15-310-052, and to authorize a fee for these services not to exceed $7,500.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brady, a second by Ms. Jansen. Any further questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I just marked off the wrong one. Agenda item number 10, approval of state superintendent of public instruction appointment of second appraiser.
So the state already appointed this appraiser. It's coming to the board because there's an expenditure tied to it. We are responsible for the payment of the state appraiser. And so requested action is to approve this appointed appraiser from the state with the dollar amount on the proposal. If you're looking for it's $10,000.
Yeah. That's quite a bit more. This comes out of our site, not our site budget, our capital, correct?
Building and sites fund. So
Oh,
that is
building and
capital.
sites. So it is our capital. Okay. We just seem to be transferring a lot of expenses to that account. Is this, obviously we have to do this, but
Yeah, so when it sells, then we'll we'll replenish that fund and the net will be more than what we're spending. So it's just like when you buy a house, or you sell a house, you get proceeds and they take the costs out of it.
Mhm.
Same thing here.
okay.
And our capital is fine.
I know, but it's still $10,000. It adds up. So total, it's $1,750 that we'll be spending on appraisals.
17,000.
That's what I meant.
I'm feeling you too.
So, all right. Any questions,
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
It's indicated $10,000, but it also does say that it does not include the provisions for additional professional services, which may be required to complete the appraisal analysis, such as engineering, environmental tests, cost estimating, and blah, 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 blah. Would that require us visiting this again if they come back with an additional cost?
I would hope not. That none of those fees are included in Ben Johnson's, and I would say we need to have the same scope of appraisal.
So then I guess my question is why is his like $3,000 more than Mr. Johnson's?
That's a good question.
Because you can charge whatever you want for your services.
Yeah, it's their fee.
And both of these are coming out of capital. And then, yeah, part of the net proceeds. Got it.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We will open it up for public comment at this time. Seeing as there is none, we will close public comment and bring it back to the board.
So I
Ms. Miller.
move to appoint Johnson Perkins Griffin LLC as the board's designated appraiser pursuant to NRS 393.240 to determine the cash market value or rental value for the properties located at 1446 Gardnerville, Nevada, parcels 1220, 1510, 310, 049, 051, and 052, and to authorize the fee for the services not to exceed 10,000.
Second. Motion by Ms. Miller, second by Ms. Jansen. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, on to agenda item number 12. Ms. Willoughby.
Yeah, Terry Willoughby for the record. This item is paying from the district's operational efficiency grant that we've received. It will drastically improve our processing in district-wide. We will allow us to move to a more paperless environment, okay? And be able to implement workflow. We'll be able to attach invoices to the transactions in our financial system. So the auditors will probably be able to be remote and not have to come out. So they could just be given a view-only login and just go in and look to their heart's content. And it will also standardize invoice routing, the review and approval process, and automate the accounts payable processing process. And there's no cost. It's paid for strictly out of the grant. Happy to answer any questions.
I love it when things are paid for out of a grant. Is a question I have, is this an ongoing cost?
It will be, but we'll be but able to absorb this into the district-wide software. And it will actually reduce staff time, and so
More efficient.
more efficient district-wide.
Okay.
There's
you.
a lot of paper right now.
And ink and printers. Any other questions? All right, then we will open it up for public comment at this time. Seeing as there is none, we will close public comment, bring back to the board for a motion.
I motion to approve the purchase of the Tyler Content Manager Core and Tyler AP Automation invoice. Oh, sorry. Capture under the district's existing Tyler ERP Pro agreement for initial amount not to exceed $22,812, and authorize the superintendent and designee to execute the quotations and related contract documents subject to final procurement, legal, and grant compliance review, and authorize funding from the Nevada Department of Education Local Education Agency Financial and Operational Efficiency Grant.
I'll second that. Motion by Ms. Miller, second by Ms. Knighting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We just need to double check. I think we need to go to closed session, correct? Close. Okay, so at this time we will go to agenda item number 4, closed session. We will return. All right, we are back from closed session where we discuss personnel matters. We will go quickly to our board reports. Mr. Brady, would you like to start us off?
To the Chamberlain, Frank D. 16 years of doing this, I still can't figure it out. We went to the chamber lunch, listened to a presentation from Brooke 80 Park and Rec. I did meet with Jennifer Davidson. I meet with her on a quarterly basis on a number of things, and she suggested that with respect to our pupil-centered funding plan that we engage NACO. So I met with Mark Gardner and gave him a copy of the document that we have here to keep him abreast of really what's going on. And then basically Rome is burning and nobody's doing anything about it. I think that's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Zinke?
So I went to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting. Nothing exciting other than the Boys and Girls Club did come and present there also. And it went, I would call it went well. So that part was good. This morning I went into Miss Lamb's leadership class and spoke to the kids about coming out for our school board, and tried not to scare them off. And so hopefully we get some good applicants. I think that opened on Wednesday, so they have a couple weeks to put in their application there. And then yesterday I went out to girls golf practice to help out, and we have the most girls on that team I think we've had in 5 years. Last time we had that many was my daughter's freshman year. So golf is alive and well, and self-funded.
I went to July and August's Lake Tahoe chamber meetings. I'm sorry, no, there wasn't one in July. So I went to the one this past week. I also last week attended CVMS's back to school night, I guess. They had that on Thursday.
It's like orientation.
Nope, orientation was Tuesday and they did a back to school night on Thursday.
Oh, interesting.
It was very interesting. They did a back to school night before the school started. So I attended that. So 6th grade, then 7th grade, 8th grade is kind of a roll, but it was interesting to be able to see a back to school night before going back to school instead of 3 weeks after. So just a different approach. So it was very nice to see students in the halls. Went to Douglas High's new student orientation as well. Went to a football scrimmage. On Monday, I attended 8 of our 11 schools. I missed a couple, just didn't have time. I also attended a National School Board legislative cohort meeting that I am now a part of and that I will be continuing to do all the way through January, February. And then I also yesterday attended debt management meeting with Mr. Brady. But you're not on it as school board.
Ms. Knighting.
I attended the leadership forum on July 30th and I thought it was a great day. There was a lot of good training and it was helpful. And then the health advisory committee will meet next Tuesday. They haven't been meeting over the summer.
So I just wanted to give a little recap. I usually read the notes from the Nevada Department of Education. Their meeting was July 27th, and our superintendent, Mr. Alvarado, was appointed to fill member Elise's post. And State Superintendent Wakefield presented an introduction focused on core values, vision, and priorities. And then presenting for NAS, Nevada Association of School Superintendents, our superintendent, Mr. Alvarado, and the Carson City Superintendent gave a presentation on the Invest Initiative update. The presentation outlined 4 priorities of funding. One is increase and align education funding to ensure that resources match student needs. Number 2, refine SB 400 from 225 to more effectively and positively impact school district operations and student success. 3, strengthen early literacy supports without harmful student retention requirements. And number 4, stabilize, align, and expand pre-K funding structures. Thank you for doing that, Mr. Alvarado.
I turned it off. See, it's not just you, Mr. Brady. I had the opportunity to attend virtually our county commissioner meetings. Nothing was talked about pertaining to our school district, so that was nice. And then I was able to go with cabinet to all of the schools on the first day of school. That was pretty awesome. It was very enjoyable. It was really awesome to be at at Scarcelli. I'm so sorry. And the amount of parents, I think, outweighed the number of kids that were there. And I thought that was really cool. I was really supportive. I do know that our staff is feeling very overwhelmed at that school. And so we need to make sure that we support them and let them know that we care and that we hear them. Coming up, we have NASB's putting on a virtual training that I'm participating in. So it will be, I believe it's August 30th. And so if you're not signed up, we will be going over what we've been doing on our SAR committee and the work that we've done with our district performance framework. So, and then there's NASB training over Labor Day weekend, that Friday and Saturday. Yeah. So, and I think that's it. And the floor is now yours, Mr. Alvarado.
There's one more item here, future agenda items.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I got ahead of myself. Future agenda items.
So we'll still need to add Mr. Zinke's item request for financial literacy standards. So we'll get that added onto this document and then whatever else the board wants us to consider. Remember, no new programs. We don't have any money for it.
No new programs.
Unless
I
there's
would like or
self-sustaining.
added to a future agenda item to have an analysis of the health account. I don't know if it's in October or when the changes need to be made, if we're making any changes to that, but I know the meeting's Tuesday, but they had posted online and we need to look at that account.
Is there a month I heard you say October?
And maybe we would need to check with Leanne. It seems like it may be in October that they come forth with any changes for the next year to the plan itself.
But it may not be bad to start looking at it in September.
Yeah, I know October is open enrollment, but those discussions do happen for plan changes. So we'll try to align it to the plan changes. So if it's October, that's when it'll happen. But I'll also have to defer to Mrs. Willoughby to share. She has a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Mrs. Willoughby, what would be an appropriate time frame for you?
We probably should have something, every month until, I'm sorry. Just a small little update on it. Not a full analysis, and then I can bring something back, because I know I did an analysis just on next week's meeting through ChatGPT, and it flagged several things I needed to pay attention to. So
Yes, well, going over the thing today, I mean, just looking over the last year's things, we spent more than we brought in revenue there, and that's after,
it's
you
just
know, we
kind of
upped it by
flat,
over
but
$1 million the previous year. So we've got to look at that, because we might get in trouble there. Just
Yep.
Anything else? Mr. Brady?
It's on. Did you mention that we're going to have an agenda item with the SRO program and Captain Kuntz?
Next month, we'll have the SRO report, which talks about the infractions and arrests on campuses across the district. It'll be Bruce Jacobson as well as Brent Kuntz.
Is that the new SRO? I don't think.
No, Bruce Jacobson oversees our SROs
Oh, okay.
with Rick Kuntz. And so our new SRO is Kevin Lewis, and we'll introduce him to the board at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
I hope I'm not overstepping, but Miss Jackson and I talked about one, and we had mentioned this to Superintendent Alvarado already, but we need to update a policy regarding costs incurred by the school board for individuals versus the board itself. When a training is in Louisiana or such, if it's for the betterment of the individual versus the betterment of the board, because we also have a budget and a cost. And so I'm going to leave you with it as broad as that, but something that we can discuss to come up with a board policy regarding the costs incurred and who pays them.
Yeah, so that would be a bylaw, because that's what governs the
There you go.
board.
Sure.
But when I get to my report, I want to talk about Dr. Ellsbury coming back out for another Saturday training session for the board.
Sure.
And it may be most appropriate to put that item on that day. And then we can implement it within the
Yeah.
handbook.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
January.
I would take that as Mr. Brady wants to incur no costs on his personal.
I think does that cover everybody's future agenda items? Okay. Now you can do your superintendent report. You have 9 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
8 o'clock is our cutoff, 4-hour meeting tonight.
I was hoping for 6,
Yeah.
so
Well, first off, I just want to say
6 o'clock.
that's ambitious.
Hey,
you know,
that was hopeful.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, run.
So in my report, first off, I want to thank all of our classified staff and certified staff that worked over summer. There were a lot of movement of school sites. The logistical movement required double moves in some cases, and in one case, a triple move of, school facility, equipment, and furniture, all of those types of things. And our guys definitely deserve some great gratitude for that. We did host a luncheon for them. We purchased some pizza, had an hour lunch with them just to say thank you for all your hard work. All of our schools opened successfully. We still have some whiteboards to put up at Aspire High School, and then some minor things to do over at Scarcelli. But I can tell you, our facilities are in great conditions because of them, right? We didn't hire any outside contractors to support them. That was a consideration. And they just put their nose to the grindstone and got the work done. So the cabinet team and I facilitated a 3-day forum with our leaders to prepare them for the school year. In that meeting, we did share our theme for the school year. Our theme is empowering others, building capacity, confidence, and growth. And we're tying our theme to Ted Lasso. So if any of you have seen Ted Lasso, you'll know that Coach Lasso went through a lot of personal and professional adversity. And he utilized his life lessons to teach his organization, up one level to the owner, down to the field, to capture those teachable moments and lead his team. So we're going to do the same thing here. Our leaders are ready to coach potential. We're asking all of our students, all of our staff, all of our teachers, everybody to be coachable, to be curious, not judgmental, and to be a goldfish. And Ted Lasso, he talks about a goldfish being the happiest animal on earth because they have a 10-second memory. And so we definitely want to display that as a governance team as well, and move forward, assuming positive intent, building trust and camaraderie. And I think we're on our path to do all of those things. I met with trustee officers to discuss a NASB conference that we're going to have in December. I did build a framework for a presentation, so I'm excited to present alongside our trustee officers in Clark County and just kind of share what we've learned over the last 2 years and how we're putting all the puzzle pieces back together, and we're looking to the future, and we're focusing on students, but also fixing some major issues with our budget. And we're going to focus on the governance mindset. It really, the baseline of improvement, it goes back to mindset. If you don't think you can do better, you're never going to do better. And I think every one of our trustees and every one of our cabinet members is on the pursuit of excellence. We want to do better. We want to make progress. And hopefully nobody's striving for perfection. Okay. Earlier this month, I met with Dr. Canavero, the executive director with the Education Service Center. Right now, I'm trying to pursue external revenue sources for our strategic plan. This is the final year of our strategic plan. Remember, our focus is remaining the same. It is multi-tiered systems of support, in which we will have a recognition item at next month's meeting. We had multiple schools in our district earn bronze or gold awards from UNR. So they deserve to be recognized. It just shows that when we prioritize things, we focus our resources and we allocate funds, to our goals that we can achieve. And those MTSS awards definitely is proof and evidence that we're making progress in that area. Another focus area is career technical education. That's important for sustainability, but our goal is somewhat aligned with the State Board of Education's goal. That they would like to see career technical education expand across districts, but I'm hoping funding comes with that, right? We don't get this unfunded mandate. And I know Mr. Kate Balagad, our CTE administrator, is constantly looking at what's the next trade that we need to focus on within our school district. I don't want to spill the beans. I think it's his job to share good information. So I know what's coming down the road here, and in due time, he will share that information as well. And then last but not least, looking at our instructional framework. If we're not focusing on student achievement, there's no way to make progress. And so Mrs. Peters in our Education Service Department and PDC will focus on professional learning communities, as well as developing a data analysis protocol that we can teach to our administrators. They can implement and teach with their teachers. And then that's a component within professional learning communities. Those are those early release Mondays that we have routinely throughout the school year. In preparation for the lacrosse sanctioning agenda item, I kind of prefaced this already. I met with Mrs. Willoughby, Mr. Sanger. That was a great learning experience about a sport that obviously is near and dear to many people in our community. And let's see what the future holds. We will support them with fundraising. I'll work with Haley to send out a fundraising request and then solicit donations that will be sent to our business office. I met with Douglas County Partnership to discuss initiatives, funding, and programmatic requests that they have for this school year. They want to pursue Red Ribbon Week again. They plan on facilitating Red Ribbon Week activities the week before October break, and we will connect Daria Singer with our site administrators. We do have a prevention specialist that we have hired through funding that the partnership has secured, and they will lead a lot of many activities within our elementary schools and middle schools. I began professional learning activities about the new federal tax credit, and Mrs. Willoughby is also learning about the federal tax credit. We're hoping to support a new education foundation board. Right now, the previous Ed Foundation Board has essentially dissolved. There's really no active members but one treasurer. And so I've reached out to some community members up in the lake, down here in the valley, and we'll be scheduling a meeting to kind of just help them move along and develop a new education foundation that can support students in the district, and then leverage this federal tax credit through scholarships for students for programs or athletics. I attended a FERPA training put on by the U.S. Department of Education. This was organized by the Nevada Department of Education. It's important for us to stay up to date on the FERPA training. This is the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act, in which we must maintain confidentiality of students' educational records. It was great to have our administrators attend that as well, because they're the stopgap between compliance and liability, and we need to make sure that we are compliant. New legislation, SB 460, requires that principal supervisors go through NEPF certification, and then principals go through NEPF certification for evaluating teachers and non-teachers that are certified. This is a requirement, not an option. And so Leslie has worked with RPDP and consultants with them. We're focusing our monthly leadership meetings on NEPF certification. So we'll have 7 trainings throughout the year, and we held 1 training over the summer. And then at the end of the year, we will be fully certified and compliant with SB 460. Terry and I met with Todd from Resource Concepts to review the parcel maps for the museum subdivision and also a potential Jacks Valley subdivision of their parcel. We've given clear direction on what to pursue. Todd will bring back information, and then we will bring back an additional action item for the board to decide in a future meeting regarding the subdivision activities. I met with Nevada Department of Ed regarding our SAA application. So we submitted our initial application by June 30th, the deadline. They came back to us and requested it for additional information. We met with them, provided additional information. This was a lengthy report in which they requested a cost analysis on what it costs to educate an inclusive education student across all of our elementary schools. So we provided that information. All of you do have a copy of it. They were supposed to meet this week to make a decision. That meeting has been postponed. Superintendent Wakefield told me that by the second week of September, we will know their decision, which is important to us. So over the next couple of weeks, I'll schedule time to go out to Jacks Valley, Pinion Hills, have a communication meeting, give them an update on this as well, take questions from them. But also Jason Reed, our principal at Pinion Hills, has stepped up, and he's willing to facilitate a consolidation work group. And we'll start putting that group together, and that'll be comprised of, teachers from Jacks, teachers from Pinion, a teacher from our consolidated schools, so that we can learn from what their experience was and do better the next time around if we have to move forward with the consolidation. Definitely crossing my fingers that we don't have to go that direction, but we still have to prepare so that we're fully prepared to take action in the future. I met with Mr. Balagad to discuss alternative education oversight. Our All-Ed program previously was at Aspire High School. Because of facility capacity issues over at Heritage, we decided to move that program to Douglas High School. It is placed out in our portables. We successfully hired a teacher for that program. Right now, we have 1 student attending in person. There's going to be a new enrollment coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have 2. Once again, this is our alternative education environment in which the board has taken action to place students into these programs. But CADE is overseeing that, and then Ms. Mitchell is overseeing CADE to provide support and resources for all ed. I met with Lindsay and Carly to record our first podcast for this year, so that was published on Tuesday. I encourage all of you to listen to it. It'll be a reiteration of some of the things I said today, and it's just a forward outlook on this year. And then on Monday, we'll meet with DCPEA leadership for a partnership meeting. I've sent the agenda out to Ms. Lamb. She's added items on that agenda from DCPA's perspective. And once again, we just want to have solid working relationships, making sure that we're being proactive and getting ahead of issues that may become grievances and to provide the best possible teaching conditions and working conditions for our employees at each of our school sites. Just like Dave said, I attended Chamber and listened to Brooke 80's presentation. I also attended Rotary this month. I plan on going to those meetings once a month. And then Miss Mitchell will also attend Rotary because she facilitates our grants, and Rotary has been very generous in allocating grants to all of our schools for the last few years, and probably longer than that. I'll reach out to Dr. Ellsbury just to confirm a date for our training. The dates that we have available for the board from him are September 19th, October 17th, October 24th, or November 7th. So as this meeting concludes, I'll ask you to pick a date. Hopefully we can have consensus, and then I'll start working with him to plan our agenda for that Saturday workshop. First day of school, the cabinet and I toured all the school sites. It was great to, see everybody in action. And just like board member said, there probably was more parents at Scarcelli's opening than students. At one point when I arrived, the line was, all the way wrapped around the building down that sidewalk. And it was a really fun morning with Mr. Spires out there playing music. We had a mascot. Is it Susie, the mascot? Oh, Safety Susie.
I thought it was Sally, but
Okay. Yeah, Safety Sally. So it was cool that Sally was out there giving high fives and welcoming kids. So looking forward to a great school year. All of our cameras have been installed. The rip and replace one, we're working out all of the settings right now at Douglas High School is our trial school, and then we'll be adjusting settings at the other schools. But there's still a lot of new hardware that needs to be installed throughout the year. The Wi-Fi access points, that purchase that the board approved, those access points are arriving. We received a couple pellets. There's probably about 5 more pellets that'll be delivered over the next couple of weeks. But that project is not scheduled until later this fall semester, and hopefully is done by February. Yeah, so that summarizes my report for the board today. Don't forget, we have a training on September 5th, Saturday, Labor Day weekend in Pershing County with NASB. Many of you have signed up. So looking forward to that. It's always great to attend a workshop with the board and for us to, just continue developing trusting relationships and work on our governance through the continuous, improvement process.
I looked and the virtual training is on 31st, not the 1st, the 30th. Sorry. So, yes. All right. So, did you want to go right into informational items?
Sure.
Okay.
So looking at enrollment, we're still refining our enrollment document. Right now, it does show all the enrollment from the 8th graders that are going up to the middle schools for band. But overall, our enrollment's showing 4,617 students. That's a difference of about 128 starting out from last school year to this school year. We did plan our budget on 4572, but as a reminder to the board, this encompasses early childhood pre-K students and Nevada Ready pre-K students in which we do not receive PCFP funding for. So as we subtracted those students, we're just over 20 students off from what our projection was, and it's 20 less than what we projected our budget on.
Is this actual numbers from our enrollment? Like butts and seats type?
So that's a different report. I will share that report with the board in the future.
Okay.
We've also done class sizes, and that class sizes will be a topic of conversation with DCPA on Monday.
Okay.
And then we have, just for your information only, AR 200 series there for your viewing. And that kind of sums up all of our information items.
See, you're not the only one that does it. And with that, I believe
I forgot to add Zephyr Coast Boys and Girls Club opened on Monday, and they have 12 students, possibly up to 20. So I just wanted to update the board on that.
Okay. All right. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.